couldn't put it in place. I've seen it before, but I couldn't place the name in there.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. We are going to call to order our City Commission regular meeting today on Tuesday, April 14th, 2026 at 6 p.m. City Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Watts,
Here.
Commissioner Lott,
Here.
Vice Mayor McCutcheon,
Present.
Mayor Williams.
Present. Thank you. And at this time, we're going to ask that everyone stand for our invocation and pledge of allegiance. And at this time, we'll welcome Pastor Williams from Cornerstone Church.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for this opportunity. Let us pray. Father, I'm grateful to you for who you are, creator of all things, God that sits upon a throne that is far above the heavens and the earth. I thank you, Lord, that you can bring peace and comfort and wisdom and counsel to all the areas of our life. And God, we need that tonight. Your word said that we're to pray for kings and governors and all those who are in authority. So I particularly pray for our council who will have to make a decision. I pray, Lord, that you will grant to them the wisdom of heaven to be able to serve well in this community that we hold so dear. I pray, Lord, that you be with us in these meetings, in these speeches, and all of the other things that goes on in this meeting tonight. And I just pray that you will be God in every way. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor Williams, for leading us in our invocation. At this time, do we have any additions or deletions, changes to consent agenda or approval of the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I move item M, our ordinances, up to,
That would then be
Item M, ordinances, to after item H.
H. Mr. Mayor, I move item M up to item H.
okay. We have a motion to move item M, which is ordinance 2026-01, to item H. Do we have a second?
Second.
Wait, we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. You want to move both ordinances,
Yes.
M1 and M2?
M1 and 2.
Okay. Okay, so for clarity, we have a motion. Do we need to restate the motion? Let's do that so the record is
All
right.
right.
Okay.
No problem. Mr. Mayor, I move item M, ordinance 1, and ordinance item 2, under M, up to H.
Great. We have a motion to move ordinances item M1 and 2 to item H. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Great. Motion passes. Our next item is F, Public Forum on non-agenda items. Each person addressing the commission shall sign in with the city clerk no later than 6:05 p.m. Persons shall step up to the microphone, shall give his or her name and address in an audible tone of voice for the record, and unless further time is granted by the commission, shall limit their address to 3 minutes. All remarks shall be addressed to the commission as a body and not to any member thereof. No person other than the members of the commission having the floor shall be permitted to enter into any discussion, either directly or through the members of the commission. At this time, City Clerk, do we have anyone scheduled to speak on non-agenda items?
I don't know if this is for non-agenda items or not, but Danielle Evans. Adam Petrie.
Oh, she's coming.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Danielle Evans. Am I okay to go? Okay. From
If you can state your address for the record. Name and address for the record. Thank you.
Danielle Evans, 8348 Little Road. Thank you for having me today. My name is Danielle Evans. I'm a state certified residential real estate appraiser. I have had local experience here for 23 years. The evidence is clear. A data center of this scale introduces high-intensity industrial.
One second. And thank you, everyone, for your patience. I just want to preface this by saying I know there's a lot of energy in the room, and I want everyone to know that you are welcome, and this is a safe environment. What this time is for is any items that is not on the agenda. The data center is on the agenda this evening, and so this time is allotted to speak on items that are not a part of the agenda for tonight.
So are we able to speak at all?
You will be able to
so
speak
it's just not right now?
It's just not right now.
Okay,
Okay?
sorry.
No problem. You are okay. So again, for clarity, that this time is for items that are not on the agenda. Okay, all right. So here is, one second. One second. If you are here to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, could you raise your hand for me? Any item, non-agenda item. Please come at this time. Yes, please come at this time. Thank you, Ms. Rose.
Hi there, Lisa Rice, 504 North Pine Avenue, Fort Meade, Florida. This is not about Stonebridge, the data center. This is about a moratorium that I'm asking the commission to consider. Other states, the federal, states, governments across the country are putting moratoriums down because they don't know everything. They're just now realizing people are dying, they're heat islands. Things are happening and the rest of the nation is going, whoa.
I'm sorry, Ms. Rice. Is this in relation to anything that is data center related? When
Yes.
you are referring, so here's what we're asking.
No, I'm gonna finish my minutes.
One second, because tonight we are going to be in decorum and we will have order. So what we've requested is if there is any item not related to the data center and or data centers at all, this is what this time is for. So if you have an item that you would like to address that is not related to data centers, Stonebridge, or the development agreement, you are welcome to do so at this time.
Well, I want it on the record that I am requesting that the commission consider a moratorium for any data center.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in attendance this evening who would like to speak on an item that is not in relation to the things that we have previously stated? Okay, wonderful, thank you. Our next item will be ordinance, ordinance M1 2026-01. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Our public forum is closed. Thank you. And at this time, we're moving forward to ordinance 2026-01, second reading. City Attorney.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance number 2026-01, an ordinance of the City of Fort Meade, Florida, amending the future land use map of the City of Fort Meade, Florida, specifically amending one parcel of land located west of US 17 North, north of 9th Street, comprising approximately plus or minus 3.76 acres, and referred to by parcel ID 25-31-22-0000000-042020 from the future land use of commercial to industrial, transmitting said amendment to Florida Commerce for notification, providing for severability, providing for conflict, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe we have a PowerPoint that we're going to show, as well as the Central Florida Regional Planning Council to present on this item.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I am Stephanie Von Pileski-Bush with the Central Florida Regional Planning Council, and I will make this brief because I'm sure all these people don't want to really hear this. But so we have, as you heard, it's the second reading of a future land use amendment and a rezoning. It's 5.76 acres, and the address is 929 US 17 North. And the purpose is to update your future land use maps. And you did hear this case, the first reading at your last meeting. So the existing future land use is commercial, and the existing zoning is C2, commercial corridor. And the proposed future land use is industrial, and the proposed zoning is M2, heavy industry. And I had some pictures. There you go. So if you keep going, so there's the future land use and the zoning. And then I have some pictures of you may be familiar with the site, but so that's the site. It's on the right-hand side, looking south on 17. And on the next slide, you'll see there is a building on the site. It's that gray building. And then the next slide was taken at a different time of year, but these are all from Google. This is another view of the site, onto the site. And then on the next slide is kind of looking north, and the arrow is pointing to the building. And then on the next slide, it's consistent with the comprehensive plan and the land use. The proposed future land use and zoning amendment meet the city's goals and objectives and policies, the adopted plan. And it's compatible with the surrounding land use because it fits the character. And again, there's already a building there. And then the infrastructure is available to adequately serve the potential development or the current development. And then on the next slide, so again, the land use compatibility, as you can see, that's the proposed future land use there. And you can see everything to the north and south and west is already industrial. And there's also some commercial across the street. And then on the next slide, so there's city water is located along US 17, sanitary sewer is also on 17, and then the site has direct access to US 17. And then the next slide, so on their February 9th meeting, the Planning Commission voted to send the proposed rezoning amendment to the City Commission with a recommendation of approval. And then again, on the next slide, so the next slide is your proposed future land use amendment motion options, and then after that, you'll vote on the proposed zoning. Are they here? Yeah. Okay, so at the last meeting, the applicant wasn't able to attend, but they are online right now. So if you have any questions for them, I think you had some questions the last time, they can answer those.
Is there anyone on the commission have any questions at this time?
I have none. I have none.
None? Okay.
I have none.
I did want to express concern, as I did in our last meeting, regarding the challenges with having industrial where it's located, as that is the gateway to the city, and concerns about what the facade, how that area may be treated, the front of the property. Was there any conversations regarding that, or what they may look like with landscaping or otherwise?
Well, again, they're online, so maybe they can answer that question. Hopefully.
Hi, this is Melanie Kayali. I'm the broker and representative for the owner, Hassan, who is also on the call, and then Jessica Robinson with Lynn Engineering is also, she's part of the team. So what was the question again, I'm sorry?
This was specifically regarding where industrial is located. Will there be anything to address concerns regarding landscaping or how the front area of your property will be landscaped, or again, if there have been any formal plans regarding how it will look, how the area will look?
No, as of right now, and this is Melanie speaking, as of right now, it was going to remain the same. There were no future plans to add additional landscaping unless that was a city ordinance that needed to be done. But right now, the facade was to remain the same, the building was to stay standing as well.
Understood.
And I just want to include, I'm Jessica, and I'm on behalf of the engineer of record for this project. The lot in question is the only one on this particular lineup that is zoned a different type than the rest. So we are only seeking approval to have the lot rezoned to match the rest of the street. So the rest of that is still industrial, and Melanie is correct, there is no changes that are being proposed within this. We are just looking to have that lot rezoned so that we have some unification in terms of what is also available on that street in that particular section.
Thank you. If there are no more questions or concerns, what is the will of the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I do want to,
Please.
you do need to open public hearing,
thank you.
public comment.
Thank you. And I appreciate it. We will have this time for public comment. If there is anyone who would like to come up and speak to this item, you're welcome to do so at this time. Any questions, any concerns? Okay. Granted that, is there a hand? Okay. There is no one. We'll close our public forum. Again, if there are no questions or concerns from our commission, what is the will of the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance 2026-01 on its second and final reading.
Great. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Great. Yes, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Moving forward to ordinance 2026-02, second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And prior to reading the title of the ordinance, I will read the quasi-judicial disclaimer, because as a rezone, this is a quasi-judicial hearing.
Okay.
So please be advised, the following item is quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment, please indicate the item number you would like to address when the announcement is made. An opportunity for persons to speak on the item will be made after the applicant and staff have made their presentations. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to be either cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the commission to ask questions on their behalf. The full agenda packet is hereby entered into the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. At this time, commissioners must disclose any ex parte communications concerning items on the agenda. This would be just for this agenda item only if you have had communications outside of the public hearing with anyone regarding these matters.
Okay.
Seeing none, at this time I will swear in any persons wishing to testify on this ordinance 2026-02. So please stand and raise your right hand.
Mayor,
1 second. Commissioner Watts?
Zach, could you back up to that last part of the disclaimer?
Oh, yes, sir. So the last part of the disclaimer was that at this time, commissioners must disclose ex parte communications. So if you have had discussions with individuals on item number 2026-02, that ordinance, if you have had discussions with anyone outside of the public hearing, then you must disclose that in order to waive the presumption of prejudice for, that ex parte communications provide.
This is not just the data center site, only just the upfront land, or?
Correct. So this is not the data center. This is the rezoning matter.
Just want to clarify.
Yes, sir.
So I can continue? Yes.
At this time, I'll swear in any persons wishing to testify in ordinance 2026-02. Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you hereby swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. So ordinance 2026-02, this is an ordinance of the city of Fort Meade, Florida, amending the official zoning map of the city of Fort Meade, Florida, specifically amending one parcel of land located west of US 17 North, north of 9th Street, comprising approximately plus or minus 3.76 acres, parcel ID 25-31-22-0000000-0422020, from the zoning of C2 commercial corridor to M2 heavy industrial, providing for severability, providing for conflict, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have, well,
Stephanie.
oh, sorry, please. Thank you.
Right, again, Stephanie Von Pileski Bush with the Central Florida Regional Planning Council. So it's the same presentation. I just combined them. And so the very last slide are your motion options for the rezoning.
Thank you. At this time, do we have anyone from the public who would like to speak to this item? You could do so at this time. Okay, none. Do we have any questions, concerns from the commission?
I have none.
None? Okay, what is the will of the commission?
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 2026-02.
Wait, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 2026-02. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Who is your second on that?
We had, I heard Commissioner a lot, Commissioner, Vice Mayor McCutcheon. I think we heard it in two places.
I need you to call it.
Yes, Vice Mayor McCutcheon.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, moving forward, we have item I, which is our public hearing. Right before we begin, I'd like to share a few words with the public. Okay. I want to thank everyone again for being here tonight. I see that we also have some students here. Thank you for your engagement on this matter. It's always encouraging to see the citizens engage in governmental process. That is what our country was founded upon. People taking an active role in community, caring enough to show up, to speak up, and be involved. As much as we can, we want to provide spaces for your voices to be heard. So let me begin with what is most important tonight. There are rules of decorum that must be followed during this meeting. These rules are not my personal choice. They are a part of the procedures that govern public meetings. The Sergeant at Arms has a standing authority to remove anyone who becomes disorderly, creates boisterous noise, disrupts the meeting, or displays any signs. Okay. In past meetings, as a courtesy, we have allowed applause. However, tonight, we want to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to be heard and that we maintain proper order. If you would like to show support, you may simply wave your hands or indicate with some type of hand gesture. Again, we want to make sure that everyone is heard tonight. Also, if you have any handouts or materials you wish to submit, please do not hand them directly to the commission. Please provide them to the city clerk, and they will be properly distributed. Let us all be courteous and civil in our contributions tonight. And let me be especially clear. Do not threaten or intimidate anyone in the commission, city staff, or in this audience. It will not be tolerated. Now, I want to make it very clear tonight, an important part about where we are in this process. Tonight's vote is not a vote on whether the data center can come to Fort Meade or not. Again, I'm going to say that again. Tonight's vote is not a vote on whether the data center can come to Fort Meade. That approval happened or occurred previously under a prior administration. It has nothing to do with this commission. What is before us tonight concerns the terms and conditions that must be met moving forward through this development agreement. So I want everyone to clearly understand, this vote tonight does not determine whether the project comes or does not come. That decision was made last year. I also know many of you would like to have had more input in this process earlier. I understand that. But we are working within a time crunch created by how things were handled before. The developers are here, the process is moving, and I believe we can continue to address the concerns. Okay? I also want to be clear that I personally stated that this segment of the approval process could not move forward without stronger community involvement. I cannot speak for my colleagues, but I can speak for myself. Back in December, I made it clear that I could not support moving forward unless the community had greater involvement, because previous stages of this process did not include enough public engagement. I said then, and I still believe now, that the people of Fort Meade deserved an opportunity to be heard. But I also want to say respectfully, if we ask for involvement, we have to continue to show up. Our voices in the room matters. Since then, we've had a few town hall meetings, including one hosted by the developer. These were opportunities for the residents to come out, ask questions, voice concerns, and many people did that. That is a good thing. Within the development agreement that we have tonight, community benefit provisions have been added to help address some of the concerns related to the project coming to Fort Meade. These include support for infrastructure, public safety, and staffing needs. That matters because I was previously told by earlier leadership that the developers would not contribute anything. So it is important that progress has been made in securing commitments that benefit the city. And I would encourage the community to keep this same energy going forward. Stay engaged, stay informed, hold everyone accountable. Developers, elected officials, staff, all of us. That is how progress is protected. I also want to say this, and it is not a compliment, but simply a fact. It is significant that developers have made themselves personally available to address the concerns of the community. Many times, projects of this size are handled through lobbyists or attorneys, and residents never have direct access to decision makers. While I know it has not always been easy for them, they have not shied away from making themselves visible and accessible. Now, in the community's defense, visibility alone does not make the project more accessible, but accessibility and accountability do matter. I also need to address something very serious. There have been statements made online that begin to cross into the area of physical threats. Let me be very clear. We absolutely support your right to express your feelings, your frustrations, and your concerns. But we will not tolerate threats against anyone's personal safety. Members of this commission and city staff have made sacrifices to serve this community. It is not fair, and it may be unlawful to threaten the safety of my colleagues, our staff, or anyone participating in this process, and that is including you. With that said, I am really proud of Fort Meade tonight. I am proud to see people engaged, passionate, and invested in the future of our hometown. This is how communities grow stronger. This process is new for Fort Meade, just as it would be for many cities, and we are all navigating it together. So let's please keep in mind that we are all Fort Meadians, I think, or most of us, and we all want what is best for our city, and never forget that our ability makes us stronger. So thank you all for being here. I ask you again that we keep it civil, let's keep decorum, and let's move together. Let's move forward together. And with that said, we have item I-1, the developer agreement, Stonebridge. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Yeah,
City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is additionally a quasi-judicial public hearing, so I'll read the same disclosure again. So please be advised that the following item on the agenda is quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment upon this item, please indicate the item number you would like to address when the announcement regarding the quasi-judicial item is made. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to be either cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the commission to ask questions on their behalf. The full agenda packet on this item is hereby entered into the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. At this time, commissioners must disclose any ex parte communications concerning items on the agenda.
I have talked to a number of, I've talked to a number of people on the development agreement in the data center itself. Many are in the audience tonight. Do I have to give you all the names? I don't remember all the names.
You can do the best that you can. Certainly, it's better
I've
to
talked
over-disclose
Mr.
than.
Alfonso, Mr. McGurney, Mr. Mitchell, up in Timbers North area, and most of the people in this room, a lot of them anyway. That's the best I can do. I have had discussions. I answer my telephone. Maybe not much longer.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Watts.
I guess that would put me in the same boat as Commissioner Watts, because I don't think there's very many people in this room that I haven't spoken to or that have contacted me, plus many that aren't here. I mean, honestly, I would not know where to start in this room.
Mr. Mayor?
1 second.
I would-
Yes, sir.
I would like to have on my list of conversations, Miss Lisa Rice. I did not want Lisa to get left out.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Commissioner Lott. You can continue.
I mean, honestly, it would probably be easier for them to raise their hand if they didn't talk to me.
We do have a recommendation granted.
Yeah, and I would say, because we've already heard some of the names, if you know, if there are certain individuals that you know in addition, potentially disclose those. However, as you know, as you move through, you can just say, you know, I've spoken with the same persons as disclosed previously, you know, by the previous commissioner. That's sufficient.
Okay.
Then I have spoken with everyone that Commissioner Watts has spoken with.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Vice Mayor McCutcheon?
I don't see any of the people that I've spoken with at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Taylor?
And I may have spoken to people on the other side. That would include Honorary Mayor Tula Giannopoulos, and Bob Elliott, and business folks from some of the major folks in the area. So those would be the people that I have spoken to.
Okay. And I also have spoken with previously named individuals. Commissioner Lott?
And if you want to add those names to my list, you can add those too.
Okay. All right.
Same here.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. I know it's challenging, especially on an item like this where there's so much public interest.
Indeed, indeed.
So I appreciate the disclosures. So at this time, I will swear in any persons who wish to testify on the quasi-judicial item. Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you hereby swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help you God? You may be seated. Now, at this time, I'll move into just a short introduction of the item. So the applicant, Fort Meade LLC, is requesting approval of a development agreement with the City of Fort Meade pursuant to sections 163.3220 through 163.3243 Florida statutes. The City Commission is required to hold a public hearing and consider approval, that is, approval or denial, of the development agreement. As you had previously mentioned, Mayor, the subject property has been the subject of prior legislative approvals by the City of Fort Meade, establishing the entitlement framework for the proposed development. The City Commission of Fort Meade previously adopted ordinance number 2025-08, which amended the future land use map to designate the subject property as industrial. In adopting the ordinance, the City Commission made legislative findings that the amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan, complies with Chapter 163 Florida statutes, and promotes the appropriate use of land and infrastructure in furtherance of the public interest. Next, the Fort Meade City Commission adopted ordinance number 2025-09, rezoning the subject property to Industrial Planned Unit Development, IPUD, and providing a master development plan for a data center developed of up to approximately 4,400,000 square feet. The PUD approval established binding development standards and conditions, including requirements for infrastructure coordination, mandatory connection to city potable water and wastewater systems, phasing tied to infrastructure availability, and a requirement that the applicant enter into a development agreement to address utility extensions and infrastructure improvements. So these approvals are all previously approved and not subject to approval on tonight's agenda. So accordingly, the proposed development agreement is not a request for new development entitlements, but rather implements and operationalizes the previously approved future land use and PUD zoning approvals. So development agreements are governed by the Florida Local Government Development Agreement Act, which is, as previously mentioned, sections 163.3220 through 163.3243 Florida statutes. Under 163.3225, a local government may enter into a development agreement only after 2 public hearings, one of which may be held by the local planning agency. The statute requires that notice be advertised approximately 7 days prior to each hearing and mailed to affected property owners prior to the first hearing. So that first hearing was held by your local planning agency, the Planning and Zoning Board. And the Planning and Zoning Board, sitting as your local planning agency, recommended that the City Commission approve the development agreement with the following conditions. Condition number 1 is the addition of language to explicitly require the developer be treated in the same manner as other water and wastewater customers in regards to the issuance of water use restrictions in the event of drought or other emergency. Between the first hearing and tonight's hearing, that language has been added to the development agreement and was included in the packet before you. The second condition was the addition of language to clarify the temporary nature of construction easements contemplated pursuant to Section 4G of the development agreement. That was also added prior to the publication of the agenda for tonight. The Planning and Zoning Board additionally transmitted a recommendation that the Mayor and City Commissioners visit another similar data center prior to considering approval. And consistent with the requirements of Florida statutes, it was publicly announced that the second public hearing would occur tonight, April 14th. Since the publication of the agenda, the city received correspondence from the Southwest Florida Water Management District that was received this morning. And that correspondence indicated that additional regulatory approvals may be required from their governing board in order to move forward with the reservation of water capacity. The city and the developer have been working together and have added additional language to the development agreement, which has been provided to you all as well, that essentially adds a Section 35, the city water permit. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary herein, this agreement is contingent on the city obtaining approval from the SWFWMD, as may be required by the Florida Administrative Code, or the specific conditions of water use permit number 200000645.008, the WUP, of a modification of the WUP to approve the water demand set forth herein. The city agrees to use good faith efforts to secure such modification. Upon the approval of the modification of the WUP, the parties agree to record a document in the public records of Polk County, Florida, memorializing the satisfaction of the contingencies set forth in this Section 35, and settling the modification approval date as of the effective date of this agreement. In the alternative, should the parties determine that the modification set forth in this Section 35 is not required, the parties agree to record a document setting forth a mutually agreeable effective date of this agreement in the public records of Polk County, Florida. So that concludes my portion of the presentation.
Okay, all right. 1 second. Okay. Okay, thank you. We've heard it. If possible, as we continue to share tonight, if you can lean forward just a little in the microphone so that those in the back can hear. And we also ask that those who are in the back who cannot hear, you may have to lean in just a little. We'll do our best to amplify our voices so that you can hear us, okay? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, would you like me to read that section again? Or
No, okay, all right, thank you. We got a room full of mayors. All right, thank you. All right, thank you. Okay. And with that said, is there anything in addition, City Manager, before?
No,
Let's try it again.
no, not at this time. We can move into public comment.
Okay, great. Or do you have it? I think we will hear from, exactly, at this time, thank you, from our developer.
You'll be able to call up the presentation? Mr. Mayor, member of the commission, thank you for your time. I'm Doug Furstenberg. I'm a principal with Stonebridge. Before I get into the formal presentation about the development agreement, I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate all the citizens' involvement as you talked about. We haven't talked to maybe as many as the other commissioners have, but we've tried our best. What's a data center? Data center is mission critical infrastructure. It helps us do everything we do every day now, whether it's dealing with our bank, whether it's dealing with our doctors, whether it's trying to email or send a picture of a loved one, or whether it's just streaming. That's a data center. We live in it, and that's why it's become known as mission critical infrastructure. Before I get into the development agreement, I want to note that we've heard a lot of the comments. We have tried to address them. On noise, one of the reasons we came to this site is the distance from our neighbors. Our closest building under the PUD is a half a mile from our property line. Mitigates the noise. We will do additional mitigation as we go forward. Secondly, on traffic, we've really focused on...
1 second, Doug.
Yep.
For those who are sitting in the audience, I'm going to restate what we are asking for is decorum. If there are things that are said that you do not agree with, we ask that you don't make any audible noise in fairness so that everyone here have an opportunity to hear what is being said. Okay? Thank you so much. Please continue.
Sure. So on traffic, there's two things. Long term, a data center is one of the lowest generators of traffic, and that'll be a benefit to the city. In the near term, we're gonna have a lot of construction traffic. The beauty of this is that technology has changed. In the old days, we'd have a flagger. There's only so much a flagger can do, but today with tracking technology and cameras, we're gonna be able to watch. And if people violate, there'll be a fine. There'll be an escalating fine, and then they'll be prohibited from coming to the site. So we will be able to keep the traffic out of the core of the city. Third, on power, it's a unique situation. Your power comes from FMPA. Our site is going to be served by Duke Energy Florida. So in terms of the separation of burdens on the city residents for power, it is addressed because of separate sources of power, besides what is required at the state level. Lastly, on water, we knew it was a big issue. We actually didn't have a lot of water to begin with, but we've reduced it down to the bare minimum so that we can service our portable water needs. And we have a right under this agreement to 50,000 gallons a day. If we need 51, that's up to the city to decide if they're gonna give us 51. We only get 50. Lastly, one of the newer issues that come up is the forever chemicals. Data centers, and all of our developments, we don't have forever chemicals. It's not in the water, in the fire suppression systems. The closed loops don't use it, so we don't believe that there will be an issue with forever chemicals. I just wanted to quickly touch on those things, just so you could have some appreciation that we've been trying to listen, we've been trying to learn, and we're trying to make sure we deliver a good project that the city can be proud of and benefit from. So with that, though, as you said, tonight's about the development agreement, so let me switch over to that. And if we call up the presentation, it'll be myself and Stearns Weaver. Just a quick background, what is the project? It's 1,300 acres, as everybody knows. It's approved for 4.4 million square feet, extraordinarily low FAR. And that's the basic project that was approved, as you mentioned, last June. Next slide, please. This just shows you the footprint, and the purpose of this slide, just showing it to you, is while it looks small, that's 1,300 acres. And if you look to the east, where our biggest neighbor is Duke Energy, but if you look to the east, where we work towards the city, we're a half a mile from our property line. That's why we like this site. We can pull ourselves away and insulate ourselves as much as we possibly could. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to turn this over to Elise, because we want to give you a very technical understanding of where we think we are in the process, what tonight is about, and when we can address things. So,
good evening, commissioners
Good
and
evening.
public. Elise Batzel, Stearns Weaver Miller, 401 East Jackson Street, for the record. So this development agreement is the second or third approval, right? We've talked about the entitlements for the project. That's done. This development agreement is a very narrow development agreement as a result of one of the conditions of the planned development. And it specifically talks about how the developer is going to implement some of the infrastructure that's required to the project. That's it. I will tell you, and I said this at the planning board, it started out as a very simple agreement, but your city manager has come back to the developer and really, I think that the word that one of the planning board members used was, is this a fair and equitable agreement? And what I told them is, I have worked on dozens of large industrial development agreements, and I have never seen a developer go this far with what they're willing to do in the development agreement and how far they're willing to support the community financially. So that's a kudos to your staff, and particularly your city manager. So we're at this development, this very limited development agreement, but we still have permitting to go. We still have construction, and after that, it's not on this slide, but there's the operations section. All of those have a number of permits and a number of agencies that I'll talk about a little bit more. Next slide, please. So by its basic terms, all a development agreement is a contract between a developer and a city, if you boil it down. It says, here are the obligations of the developer, and in turn, here are the obligations of the city. That's it. The city attorney already told you, technically all of the statutory requirements which this development agreement meets. But if you just remember that everyone is making a promise under this contract, that's in turn what the development agreement is. Next slide, please. So we heard a lot of questions and comments throughout the entire term of this development, and concerns by citizens. Environmental concerns, wildlife concerns, water management concerns. All of these issues have to be fully vetted during the permitting process. There are a number of agencies listed here: the City of Fort Meade, Polk County, Southwest Florida Water Management District, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, the United States Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Each and every one of those agencies, through a variety of permits, is going to put their expertise, their technical expertise, and their eyes on whether this can move forward. So to give some comfort with respect to these regulatory safeguards, this is just the beginning of that entire permitting process. And we have to satisfy all of those regulatory agencies in order to move forward. Next slide. So going back to the actual obligations under the development agreement, there are really two key city obligations. The first one is that the city is obligated to reserve 50,000 gallons per day. Doug already spoke to you about reducing it. It started out at 150,000 gallons a day, and they completely redesigned the system that uses water in order to reduce it down to really the bare minimum. I understand that it really services the bathrooms and the restrooms and the kitchen and those kind of areas. The closed loop system, and Doug can tell you more technical, but from a non-technical person, the water is recycled and recycled and recycled. So that portion no longer requires water because it's redesigned. And the other issue that the city is committing to is a partial abatement after this is constructed and operating of the property taxes. I'll talk a little bit more about that in detail. But let's talk briefly about the key developer obligations. The first obligation is to pay up to $300,000 for the city to acquire additional water use rights, either via the Polk Regional Water Cooperative or a similar organization. That is a pot of money for the city to use for that purpose. The second, and this goes back to the satisfaction of that condition in the PUD, the developer has to commit to design, install, and construct at its expense public water and wastewater utilities, and also design, install, and construct public roadways at the developer's cost and expense. That is a requirement, a contractual requirement under the development agreement. And most importantly, I think, for the community, for the commissioners, and for the city, is a commitment to give a developer funding advance of $10 million. That $10 million Doug's going to talk about a little bit. The city can use it for a variety of purposes. We understand that this is a cash-strapped community, and the hope is that the dollars that we will ultimately be abated if this moves forward can be used now by the city to solve some of those major problems or issues that you see. So I want to repeat that just a moment. That $10 million, the first $5 million has to be paid by the developer before a shovel goes into the ground. So before horizontal work starts, that permit triggers the payment of the first $5 million. The second $5 million gets paid before or close to 1 year after that time. So if something happens, we put a shovel in the ground, a year goes by, the other $5 million is paid, and something happens and data centers aren't moving forward, or they don't end up building it. There is zero obligation for the city to pay that money back. The only obligation in the development agreement with respect to that $10 million is if the data center is constructed and operating, they have to start paying ad valorem taxes to the city. So you're going to be getting a big chunk of money every year. When that occurs, the city agrees to abate 40% of the ad valorem taxes. So you keep 60% to use for funding of the city, and then 40% is abated until the time that $10 million is paid back. And there's no time obligation there. It can go on until that $10 million is paid back to the developer. Next slide, please, and I'll turn it back over to Doug.
So one of the things we worked with the city manager on was not only the amount of money, but just to identify a possibility that we wanted to have a sense of how the city would use these advanced funds, not to manage the city, but we wanted to, would it be investment? So the list that was come up with was the fire station completion, library improvements, communications, future water supply increases beyond the $300,000 that we're giving to the city in a moment that the development agreement becomes effective. On top of that, obviously, if there's additional funding needed to get additional water. So, the two at the end that I think are the most interesting is strategic planning and staff. As we become to fruition, the city will then have the ability to reimagine what it wants to be and how it wants to be and a plan ahead. And from a timing standpoint, you're going to get about 2 2 years of notice plus whatever time of the calendar year. The taxes start the January after we finish construction. So our hope is to be in the ground by the end of the year. We would deliver in '28, and your first large new tax payment that would come to the city would be in 2029. So, planning, getting ready for what hopefully we will be giving back to the city. So that's kind of, just what did, we didn't prescribe the list, we just listened to the list in terms of what the city manager suggested. Next slide, please. So, how do the benefits weigh out here? We are, providing funding for utility infrastructure. So the city is putting no capital, none, into the project. We are funding all the capital needs for us to be able to open the project. 2, we'll make the $10 million available for the city to advance in terms of its working. 3, we're going to give you the financial support to start the process to find additional water. Then we take, as I said, we take care of the roadway improvements, wastewater, and the last thing is people wanted to see our plans. The city manager wants to see our plans. So we have lots of filings with this, as Elise was talking about. Under this agreement, we will deliver those filings, I think, within 5 days. So the city will have all that information, much easier for them to timely understand where we are when it's not a city permit. So you'll be able to get all that information. And so, what does the city, need to do? Again, no capital, no financial exposure, and then, my eyes are, and just, you make us a capacity commitment for the 50,000 gallons of water. So, in terms of where we are, as Elise said, we're here to talk about the development agreement. I talked a little bit about what we've done to address. One of the things I want to let the commission know, and we've talked to members of the community about, is this is the beginning for us. I appreciate the acknowledgement we've been here. We're going to be here a lot more. We're going to open a physical presence. The way we believe in doing, and everybody's got their own style, in terms of the community engagement, what are the real needs? How do we reach people? One of the things people ask about, what are you going to do with helping us get the jobs? Well, we need to spend time down here to understand how we meet people where they are, to help them, because everybody's different, and we're going to have jobs at every level at this project. So whether people want to see us or not, hopefully with the development agreement behind us, we're going to be here even more, and we're going to be ingrain ourselves into the community and work with all members of the community to hopefully deliver a great project that works for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And at this time, I believe we can,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
do we have time to ask a couple of questions of this presenters
Absolutely.
before we move on?
Yes, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
First one's Elise.
Yes, sir.
I might have missed that, when you were talking about the agencies.
Sorry, 1 second, Commissioner Watts. They're pointing at their ears. Could you lean in a little?
Earlier in your presentation, you mentioned the permitting agencies that are involved.
Thank you.
Understand highly, but I'm out of room. But did you mention Swiftmud at that time?
I think it was on the list. If I neglected to mention it, they are included. Yes,
I
sir.
kind of missed it. But, okay, now, Mr. Thurston, I know I've got a lot of good friends, and some of them lived in Fort Meade for a long time, in Homeland. Have you taken the effects of the data center construction, whether it be noise, water pollution? They're all well watered up there. Can you answer that question?
Sure. The way we're designing the system here is we're not going to do our own wells. We shouldn't be affecting the groundwater. The whole idea is we're going to get the 50,000 gallons a day from the city to handle our potable needs. We'll discharge into the waste system as appropriately approved, and therefore we should not be affecting groundwater, nor should we be drawing any wells.
Now, did you mention you would not be drilling your own wells?
We are not drilling our own wells.
Okay, and you don't think there's any runoff, pollution, runoff that will affect the groundwater or upper aquifer?
No, and we can get it. Chris can get into the details, but our stormwater management plan is to help capture quantity and quality of discharge. So they make sure that things that, the runoff that comes in is handled appropriately. And there's probably it's a part of the SwiftMed permit that, in terms of getting that approved to make sure we're meeting the standards.
Okay, thank you, sir.
It might also be helpful, Lisa Batzel for the record, the SwiftMud ERP, there are city standards for stormwater, but SwiftMud has even more stringent regulations that will be required to follow.
Understand. Thank you.
All right, any other commissioner at this time? I know we'll have more discussion later. Anything at this time? Okay. All right, so let's do this. We're going to have our public, open this up to our public at this time. I know that many of you have signed up, so if we could, acknowledge the list of individuals who have signed up, and if anyone, well, let's do that. Let's start here at the top, and then we'll go down our list.
Danielle Evans.
Thank you for having me again.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Danielle Evans. I'm with Gateway Appraisal Services. I have 23 years of local real estate experience. As a state certified residential real estate appraiser, my role is to evaluate how land use decisions affect marketability and long-term value of surrounding homes. My conclusions are based on established valuation principles and documented buyer behavior. A data center of this scale is highly intensity industrial use. It operates 24/7 and requires heavy mechanical, electrical, and logistical infrastructure. These facilities introduce persistent low-frequency noise, large substations, and transmission lines. Also, diesel-generated arrays, industrial lighting, and ongoing truck activity. These conditions are incompatible with the rural residential character that defines Fort Meade. When an incompatible industrial use is placed near homes, it creates external obsolescence, an incurable loss in value caused by off-site factors the homeowner cannot control. Market studies consistently show reduced buyer demand, longer marketing times, and measurable price discounts in areas exposed to noise, visual impacts, and environmental uncertainties. This will be 1.5 miles away from the nearest home, or closer. Fort Meade's residential value is built on low noise levels, open views, agricultural buffers, and predictable land use patterns. A data center represents a fundamental shift towards an industrial adjacent profile, and even the perception of increased risk is enough to suppress value. Developers often cite economic benefits, but modern data centers generate very few permanent jobs for our locals here. They don't have the education or the means for the education to work for these places. Frequent negotiated tax concessions. We've heard that today. They're going to give us a loan that we have to pay back. Infrastructure upgrades primarily serve the facility. They do not offset long-term valuation impacts on nearby homes. Data centers also require extraordinary electrical capacity. Duke Energy might not affect your local neighborhoods, but it will affect mine. Duke Energy right now has 2 million customers. Of those 2 million customers, they are encompassed in 35 different counties. From 2020 to 2025, they've had an 18% increase in rate. In 2027 and 2028, there will be 3 to 4 more rate hikes.
That's time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Again, we ask that you abstain from clapping. Thank you so much. Our next.
Mr. Mayor, if it's okay if I call two at a time so that the one
Yes,
be behind.
thank you.
Okay. Adam Petrie and Michael Clindian.
Thank you guys for having me. My name's Adam Petrie. I'm in Sebring, Florida, 950 Cary Drive. I was born just up the road in Bartow. I grew up in Wauchula. I live in Sebring, so the Tri-County area is my home. I left and served in 6 years in the Air Force, and I came back in 21. In just those few years, I've watched this area change fast. Not grow, change. I've watched rural land get pushed aside, and what replaces it isn't built for the people who actually live here. I understand this land has been used before, it's not untouched, but this region still supports agricultural, native ecosystems, and wildlife. And land like this still plays a role in how water moves, how the aquifer recharges, and how the surrounding environment functions. And I'm not just saying that as someone who lives here. I'm a father of 3. So when I think about decisions like this, I'm not thinking in years, I'm thinking in decades. I'm thinking about what my kids, our kids, are going to inherit. And now we're talking about a 1,300-acre hyperscale data center in Fort Meade. That's not small. That's an industrial scale development in the middle of a rural and agricultural region. You can call it mission critical infrastructure, but the people who live here, what's truly critical is our water supply, our land, and our ability to sustain this community long term. These facilities use massive amounts of electricity comparable to tens of thousands of homes, and they use significant water for cooling, even when it's described as a closed system. And I'll be honest, closed system sounds good, but those systems still lose water through evaporation, maintenance cycles, and discharge. That water has to come from somewhere, and it relies on chemical treatment in order to operate. As we know, this region depends on the aquifer for everything, and we can already see drought conditions happening now. Climate patterns are changing whether we feel it overnight or not. So what happens when we add more long-term industrial demand on top of that? We increase the strain. We risk worsening drought conditions over time, and when freshwater levels drop, saltwater intrusion becomes a real threat to the aquifer itself. And this all sounds theoretical, but it's not. In Missouri, residents have pushed back on data centers over concerns about noise, water use, and impacts to their health and their wells. And in some cases, projects were stopped entirely because of it. This is already happening. And for what? These facilities don't bring hundreds of jobs. They bring a few dozen highly specialized roles that most people here just won't fill. So we're trading land, water, and long-term sustainability for something that doesn't really serve the people who live here. And I understand when a project like this comes in with millions in projected revenue. Anyone would look at that number. But the real question isn't what it brings in today, it's who it's for tomorrow. Is it for the people of this community who will be here long after this meeting, living with the consequences? Or is it for a short-term gain that looks good on paper, but shifts the long-term cost onto everybody else? Because the people who live here were the ones who will still be here. And as a father, I don't just want to plant something for the future. I want to know that my kids grow up under is shade that brings peace, not something that looms over them. And so I'll leave you with a proverb, a favorite of mine, very fitting. A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michelle Clendenin. I'm at 604 7th Street, Northeast. Commissioners, I want to thank you for your time today. I wanted to focus a little bit on something that often is overlooked in discussions like this, not the economics, not the land deals, but the real day-to-day impact that this center would have on health, environment, and well-being of Fort Meade as a community. I moved here recently because of my health issues, and now with this data center coming in, I have many concerns. Data centers operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That means constant noise from cooling system, industrial fans, backup generators, and never truly stop. This isn't just an inconvenience. Long-term exposure to low-level industrial noise has been linked with increased stress, sleep disruption, negative impacts to mental health, and for nearby residents, this becomes a permanent part of their daily life. Air quality is another serious concern. While data centers may appear clean, they rely on large diesel backup generators that are generally tested and sometimes used during outages. These generators emit pollutions that can affect respiratory health, particularly for children, seniors, and those with asthma and other conditions. This is not a one-time impact, it's ongoing. Water usage is also critical. Many data centers require substantial amounts of water for cooling. In a community like Fort Meade, that puts added strain on our local water resources. Increased demands can affect supply, raise cost, and impact the water ecosystem that residents depend on. Then there's the heat. Data centers generate significant amounts of waste heat, contributing to localized temperature increases. Over time, this can subtly alter the surrounding environment, affecting both comfort and ecological balances. And beyond the physical impacts, there's the question of community character and well-being. Residents deserve to feel comfortable in their homes, to enjoy quiet evenings and breathe fresh air, and trust that nearby developmental supports not undermines their quality of life. A large industrial facility operates nonstop, so close to where people live, changes the experience in a fundamental way. This decision is not about what can be built, it's about what should be built and what kind of environment we want to create for current and future residents of Fort Meade. I urge you to carefully consider these health and environmental impacts. Once a facility like this is built, its effects are long-lasting and difficult to reverse.
Time.
Please
It's time.
prioritize the well-being of our community.
One second. So, and thank you. I've asked now a few times, and so Sergeant Lynch, I'm going to also ask that you all be aware. We've asked for no applause so that everyone can be heard, and no one feels a sense of not being able to hear or any degree of intimidation. So please abstain from clapping or making any noise. Can you continue with our next two names? Thank you.
Sharon Johnson, Vernon Smith.
Hello, my name is Sharon Johnson, and I live at 426 2nd Street Northeast. I was under the impression that we were here tonight to voice our opinion on whether this was approved or not, but apparently it's already been approved. So what I have to say might not matter. But everything that could possibly be said about the negative impacts of this data center has been presented to this commission. I know you're hearing us, but are you really listening to us? I have lived here 80 years, and I love this town. I grew up here. I feel connected to a lot of people here. On this commission, Mr. Watt's mother taught me English in high school. Miss Lott's grandparents lived across from my grandparents. Mr. Williams' mother bought a house next to my grandmother, which he now owns. Miss McCutcheon's son, Andrew, played ball and went to school with one of my grandsons. I know Mr. Taylor's only been here 2 years. I have seen many changes over the years. Lots of things. We used to have 4 grocery stores, 3 department stores, a pharmacy, 2 doctors. A lot of things have happened, but through it all, we have not lost our essence or our heart that is part of this town. People are moving here all the time. Sometimes they are buying a house before it's even finished built. And they're not coming here for job opportunities. They're coming here to live in a quiet, peaceful, friendly town, and they're willing to commute as a trade-off for living here in this wonderful, precious town that we have. As far as infrastructure improvements that are needed, there are many grants available to Florida small towns that could help us improve the things that we need to improve. Scripture tells us the love of money is the root of all evil. And what does it profit a man if he sells his soul? If he gets the whole world but loses his soul. And I wish that this commission would not sell our town for 30 pieces of silver. Thank you.
Thank you. Who do we have next?
My name is Vernon Smith. I live at 612 Northeast 5th Street. I lived here all my life. I retired 50 years from Peace River Packing this past year. And this town can grow different ways. Just like other towns, we can, more homes, like you know, things are growing, it's not going to stop. But let homes come in here, let people move in here, then bring more businesses. We don't need this. But anyway, I'm just saying that, you know, we got other ways to grow, and that's the way we ought to go. And like with you all talking about the community, I agree, but the community should have been able to have a vote on this, and then they would know what the community wants, but it didn't work out that way. It looks like it's a done deal, but that's all I gotta say, thank you.
Thank you. What are the next two names that we have?
Amanda Sparks, Scott Lynch.
Hi there, Amanda Sparks, 311 Northeast 5th Street. I came because I was under the impression that this wasn't a done deal either. So I'm going to speak just a little bit and then I'm going to tell some facts. Most of you know my son. He's medically ill. I'm sure I'm not the only family here that has an ill family member or child. We hear that he's going to hold a loophole or the business is going to hold a loophole for the data center. Do any of you guys know what a loophole runoff is? Any of you from ag? Any of you know any of that? Eventually it has to be ran off into the ground or into a vehicle because the chemicals, because of everything. It's just like one of the members here, it's the fish tank. When you don't clean your fish tank, it runs off, comes to the surface. That's the first thing. Second thing is, this is going to bring a lot of turmoil to a lot of families, a lot of properties, not just affecting us, affecting our younger. It's just like Aaron Brockovich movie, and I've said it for the last 6 months. It took them 20 years to find out what they did wrong, and they still can't fix it. And in fact, she is lobbying against data centers because of the stuff that it has done. My next thing before my time runs out is, I know that in June of 25, Polk County is the one that approved this. Mr. Mayor, I know that you said that you wasn't on board and this is not a dagger at you at all, but you came on board in 23, began office in 24. Am I right? I agree that you have fought for our city, and I truly mean that with my heart. I believe that your words are true. But when we say that, we need to make sure that that date shows too, because somewhere along the line, you guys were a part of it, except the two new ones. My other thing that I'm gonna say is there is a statute, 163.3215, that allows anybody that is aggrieved or adversely affected, they can file an appeal. Last week was the zoning meeting where they approved the building. I don't think that this town has been given the proper 15 days or 30 days to appeal that, because here we are sitting at a meeting. Adversely, we were just told that you guys, not you, but it was already approved. My next thing is, I was here last week when Mr. Doug was here, and Mr. Kaysen asked him, this gentleman right here, what do you plan on doing for our town? Are you business or are you gonna be involved? His exact words was, I'm business. Tonight he sat here and lied to y'all.
Scott Lynch, Tyler Hancock.
My name is Scott Lynch. I'm at 12 North Hendry Avenue, here in town. I am very disappointed that this has already been approved. Everybody, and I'm sure everybody in this room, thought that we were going to get a vote on, hey, yeah, we're going to get it. No, we're not. I'm very, very disappointed. But I am proud of the commissioners. I'm proud of the commissioners as far as doing their research. But my big question is, when this was approved, why wasn't anything done? No research. I know some of you were not on the commission, and I understand that situation. But we can't just slide things through and approve them with no research. All the information that is in the new agreement, seemed like the citizens of Fort Meade brought it to your attention. And it's very troubling, very, very troubling. I've always been against it. I spoke in October of 2025 about it. And all the commissioners looked at me like deer in a headlight, like, oh, what are you talking about? But, of course, somebody knew something about it. You know, I'm kind of wondering why Port Washington, Wisconsin, Festus, Missouri, Chandler, Arizona, New Orleans, Louisiana, Monterey Park, California, Loudoun County in Virginia, Decatur, Georgia, St. Charles, Missouri, New Brunswick, New Jersey, Manassas, Virginia, and Mason, Michigan, along with the state of South Dakota, Kentucky, Georgia, Minnesota, New York, and Maine. Those states have been pushed back on data centers. All those cities I just mentioned have pushed back on data centers. Is everybody wrong about the data centers? Why doesn't all those towns I just mentioned, why don't they want them in their town? I know I've already stated my fact. I do not agree with the water situation. We're in water restrictions. We had burn bans. I'm just extremely disappointed, and I honestly don't know what else really to say. I just would hope that the contract doesn't get approved. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Tyler Hancock and Richard Mattock.
Richard Maddock.
Maddock.
I withdraw my option.
All right, thank you, sir. Then Kenneth Webb after him.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Tyler Hancock, resident of 4631 Bryan Avenue. I'm speaking to you today as a member of the Environmental Confederation of Southwest Florida. As previously mentioned, this data center is going to completely ruin my recreational activities in our city's beautiful parks. These activities will no longer be as valuable to me, as my ability to enjoy them will be completely diminished. This would be due to the low frequency hum penetrating my ears with every step and every pedal. In addition to noise, I'm extremely concerned about risks of polluting our aquifer with the harmful forever chemicals used to achieve a closed loop system. Some of these chemicals are not even regulated by the state and federal environmental protection agencies. They pose a severe risk of accidental discharge, forever tainting our region's access to clean, chemical-free drinking water. Forever. The Commission should not sign the development agreement until they work with the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council to identify conditions necessary to protect the residents and our environment. Such conditions should include requiring Stonebridge to use a closed-loop system that does not use any unregulated chemicals outside of the ones that are regulated by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. They should also be required to rely solely on treated wastewater for the evaporative cooling system. Stonebridge should be prohibited from using potable water, either from local utilities or groundwater, in their evaporative cooling system. The Commission should require that Stonebridge test the treated wastewater that would be used in the evaporative cooling system prior to employing it to ensure that all present contaminants are regulated by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and Florida Department of Environmental Protection and are capable of being removed before any discharge is released to wastewater treatment facilities and or the environment. The Commission should also require Stonebridge to conduct a study demonstrating how much water will be used in its evaporative cooling system, also requiring that any discharge from Stonebridge's cooling system be treated at a wastewater treatment facility so that any discharge complies with state and federal standards. Lastly, prohibiting Stonebridge from relying on deep well injections to hold its cooling system discharges. My final request is that for transparency and public accountability, this Commission conduct a roll call vote instead of the traditional voice vote so that each Commissioner's vote is individually recorded in the official record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kenneth Webb and Tom Palmers.
Good evening. I'm Kenneth Webb. I live at 814 North Church Avenue. My home will be located 2.5 miles from the center of the data center. I am a member of the Imperial Polk Astronomical Society and the Astronomical League, And we do not support the construction of this data center on light pollution grounds. I did a comparison with a similar data center in Eagle Mountain, Utah. Before the construction of the data center in 2021, what we call the light pollution index was 1.77. That simply means that the light pollution of that area was 1.77 times normal background. Normal background is dark, perfectly dark. Ones that we find on mountaintops. After the construction of the data center, the background lighting went up to 9.6. That's an increase of 5.42 times. I did an extrapolation for a location 2.5 miles away from the data center and did the calculation, brought it to Fort Meade. We are going to have an increase of about 2.3 times in light pollution. And that will mean we'll end up losing a lot of our stars. My friends and I and a lot of the young people here in this room go out, look at the night sky, enjoy the night sky. And South Polk County and Fort Meade are one of those rare areas in Polk County where we can go out in our backyard, look up, hey, there's the Milky Way. With the construction of this thing so close to our town, we'll lose that night sky. For a lot of us, that affects our quality of life. I go outside and I sit back, I enjoy the sky, see, hey, God made this is beautiful. One of my colleagues, he lives even closer. He will have a possible increase of 3 to 4 times the background light pollution. So, as part of our astronomy club and the 4 astronomers that are associated with Fort Meade and the 24 other astronomers that live here in Polk County, we stand against this thing. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Tom Palmer and
Yeah.
Jessica Bennett.
Tom Palmer, 1805 26th Street Northwest, Winter Haven. I'm Chair of Ancient Island Sierra. We cover Polk, Hardy, Highlands, DeSoto, and Sumter counties. Sierra's got a couple issues you might consider as you move forward. One is fossil fuel emissions. The 1.2 gigawatts that I've been told this center will require this is about half the capacity right now of the Heinz Energy Complex. So I'm told they're going to have additional power, which goes through the Power Plant Siting Act, but also additional water for cooling. I did some back of the envelope calculations, and the additional energy required another 67.2 million gallons a day of cooling water to supply the power. So that's something to think about as you move forward. And how this affects the aquifer, how it affects local air quality, something just as you move forward with the staff review and the other to look forward. Also, it's very near the Florida Wildlife Corridor, and I think as you move forward with your staff review, probably need to consider how that might, might affect that and affect the wildlife moving through, living there. There's just a lot of unanswered questions. All right, thank you.
Jessica Bennett and Michael Bennett.
Hello, good evening. My name is Jessica Bennett. I live in Timbers North in Fort Meade, a half a mile from the proposed data center, approximately. After listening in to the recent meeting where so many knowledgeable and educated individuals spoke, it made me kind of stop and think about the weight of all of this and the impact on our community. It has since pushed me to invest some time in understanding the issue. Tonight, I am speaking as an educator. I'm a teacher here in town, and I care deeply about my students and their families. And through my work, I've built some meaningful relationships with the children in this community, and my concerns are rooted in their future. I'm worried about the long-term impact of this data center, including noise pollution, light pollution, the potential health effects, especially for children and pregnant women, the unknowns of the long-term exposure. And I'm also concerned about our schools. If families choose not to move here or decide to leave Because of this development, it affects enrollment, funding, and ultimately the strength of our community. So my question to you is, have there been comprehensive studies on how hyperscale data centers impact children and families? And have each of you considered the long-term impact that this could have on the children and families here in Fort Meade? I also want to respectfully ask that the questions raised by the community members in the previous meeting and those being submitted tonight are clearly and publicly addressed in a way that is accessible to the community. These are real concerns from the families that live here, and we deserve the opportunity to see and review those responses in a transparent way. I understand I'm not an expert, and I trust that you are working, all of you, to make truly informed decisions, ones that go beyond surface level research and are grounded in thorough study and credible data and expert guidance. I also want to share something a little personal real quick. My family and I have only lived here for a couple of years, and in that time, we've built a life here. We've built relationships and a sense of community and belonging, and it really breaks my heart to think that we may have to leave because of all of this. So this isn't just about development to us. This is about home. But thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Michael Bennett and Tom Carters. Sorry. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly for Tom.
Good evening. My name is Michael Bennett. I live in Timbers North, approximately 1.5 miles from the proposed data center. I'm a local business owner and a resident in this community. I didn't come here tonight with opinions. I came here with facts. Out of my own pocket, I hired an independent acoustical engineer to perform a professional noise, light, and air quality study on my property. This isn't someone guessing. This is someone who works on data centers across the country, representing both developers and homeowners. I want to be very clear. The most disturbing part of this process was not the report itself. It was the conversation that I had with him. This expert, who has seen these projects firsthand in communities just like ours, told me plainly, based on the proximity to the proposed site, I will not only hear this data center, I will feel it. Not might, not possibly, will. No form of mitigation can prevent that. We're talking about a low-frequency noise, constant around the clock, that doesn't stay outside. It travels through walls, it disrupts sleep, it affects your ability to live comfortably in your home. If it will happen to me, it will happen to others. Let's stop pretending that this is a minimal impact project. It is not. Once it is built, there is no going back. So I have to ask the question no one seems willing to answer honestly. What is the actual benefit to this community? Because from where I stand, outside of a financial gain for a select few, there is no real support. There is no meaningful protection for the residents. There is no guarantee that our quality of life will not be permanently degraded. Just words. What there is, however, is risk. Risk that people will no longer want to live here. Risk that property values will decline. Risk that the very character of this town will be changed in a way that cannot be undone. We are not against progress. But progress that ignores the people it impacts is not progress, it's negligence. Listen to us. Take this seriously, because once this decision is made, we are the ones who will have to live with it, not the developers, us. I would ask the commissioners to vote against this agreement and repeal Ordinance 2025-09 at the next meeting. I will close with this. I challenge any business owner in this community, if you support this data center, speak from your chest and let it be known. I will take your voice of silence as acceptance. I do not. Thank you.
Okay. Tom Gattens and Raul Alfonso.
Tom Gatens, 7654 Notting Hill Sky, Apollo Beach, Florida. I came here because I'm a concerned resident, neighboring county. I want to assure you that you have the power. You have the power to rescind prior decisions. You are not obligated to move forward with this project. And the reason this is important for you to understand is you cannot blame past administrations for your failure to do the right things for the people of Fort Meade. This is essential. Most importantly, we have to understand that government should never be in the position to pick winners and losers of the lottery of government spending. And the entity of Stonebridge, think about this, lacking of transparency is tremendous. The people of this room have no idea who the owners of this project are, like many data centers around the nation. Why? Because it's not in their best interest. They don't want you to know. You should never give the hard work and labors of the people, we the people, to entities unwilling to stand up here themselves and demonstrate their earnest need for whatever gifts you bestow upon them. Here is the essential important piece you need to know. The people of this rural community have chosen this place for a specific reason, because it's out of the way of the hustle and bustle of life. But understand that today, it was mentioned earlier that this is mission critical. But guess what? It's also mission critical for the enemies of the United States. This becomes a target. This beautiful little community becomes a target the minute this place becomes built. Never forget that. This is on all of us. If we don't stand up now for the people here who do not want it, and if you do not think about the choices that were made by that past administration and say, you know what, we can change this. You have that power because we the people gave you that power. Essential for you to remember is that in this process, transparency is king. And the lack of transparency, they sent their folks here to represent them, but they know who they are. But Stonebridge from Maryland, they don't tell you who the owners of this operation are going to be. Think about that. Why are they afraid? Why are they afraid of we the people of Fort Meade? Why are they afraid of the people in Maryland? But here's a piece I want to share with you, just a personal story. I hired 3 new employees, one of them from Staunton, Virginia, 2 weeks ago. She's been unable to communicate 3 times in the first 2 weeks. Why? Because they had rolling blackouts because of energy usage of data centers near Staunton, Virginia. I lose the value of that employee because of the energy usage, which was explained to us that it's not going to be the units that functions for Fort Meade. Rather, it's going to be Duke Energy and the next community over. Is that the type of neighbor we want to be? To take the energy from them, deny them reasonable rates of energy,
That's
run
time.
their costs up? Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Raul Alfonso and Roxanne Reyes.
If you can hand them to the clerk, thank you.
Okay. We, the citizens and the residents of the community, stand before you today with a deep displeasure regarding the manner in which Stonebridge brought this project and permitted it to advance. Beginning in the June of 2025, the decisions were made that allowed a massive industrial development into our small rural town, and many feel that this process lacked the thorough due diligence our community deserves, creating understandable concern over strained infrastructure, quality of life impacts, and long-term character of Fort Meade. Tonight, we present a constructive path forward, and we're respectfully asking that you, the City Commission, take the proposed ordinance that I sent you guys this morning to amend our Unified Land Development Code and promptly submit to the City Attorney for review this ordinance that'll prevent any future data centers in Fort Meade while narrowly grandfathering the single Stonebridge project as it was approved in 2025. If we can't stop it through a moratorium, let's stop it from the future. We recognize that the pending development agreement currently represents primary guardrails and the main mechanism in which the additional community benefits, such as infrastructure contributions, may be secured from the developer. We therefore urge you to take careful consideration of that agreement and ensure that it's completely bulletproof. The contract must not allow the developer to cause any of the problems that we've been talking about tonight, including excessive strain on water resources, degradation of air quality from the natural gas generators, persistent noise or light pollution. Approving both the agreement and the ordinance would demonstrate responsible governance, honoring the existing process while ensuring no additional facilities of this scale or of data centers in general are permitted in the future. That the single approved project is strictly controlled. This community has experienced significant division, and since the June of 2025, neighbors have found themselves on opposing sides. Trust in local government has been tested, and the fabric of our small town has been strained. We respectfully reprimand the city for not giving a greater consideration to the residents who will have to live next to what is effectively a perpetual noise machine, constant low-frequency hum from cooling systems and backup generators that will operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These impacts, along with concerns over light pollution from the 24/7 operations, deserve far more weight in your deliberations. We've got to emphasize the necessity.
That's time.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Roxanne Reyes and Heather Grant.
3 minutes. Hello, everyone. I'm Roxanne Reyes. I live in New Haven. And to echo what that gentleman said a couple of minutes ago, if you're making an official vote, you cannot be swayed by the vote of a previous person that was in your position. You're going to own your vote today. And I hope that you will consider the desires of the people you're supposed to be representing, because I have been trying to find somebody in support of this on this side of the room, and so far I have not. Please keep that in mind. You're representing the whole community. And with that, I just have a few points. Some of them may sound like questions, but obviously I don't expect you to answer those. First off, the aqueduct and the Peace River does not belong to Fort Meade. It belongs to everybody in this region. They have a right, millions of gallons. Now, I'm not sure where the city of Fort Meade gets their water, but if it's just being passed through from your origins to the facility, it's the same thing, rather if they got it directly from the same aqueduct that you're getting your city water. So I don't see where that's even an issue. I think they will have an impact on the region's water supply and energy. And I'm so embarrassed for you guys, because last week when I was here and tonight, you guys excused Fort Meade because you're not on Duke Energy. That is in such poor faith with your neighboring communities that are on Duke Energy. This is a self-centered, selfish act to just put your own needs first and to heck with everybody else that's on Duke Energy. That I find that very unacceptable. I'm sorry. Okay. The developer's making all these wonderful promises, and they're using figures that I believe could very well change depending on certain circumstances. Triple-digit heat, 99% humidity, hurricanes, all kinds of issues can change this area, this environment, that they don't have up in Maryland. You know, this is not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. And also, I tell you, with this AI development business, it's still being tested. It's still being looked at by the government. Why are you wanting to risk everything for something that might be irrelevant in 5 years? Today's technology is tomorrow's paperweights. And if anything happens to the companies you're relying on, they go out of business, you're stuck.
That's time. Thank you.
Heather Grant and Jeanette Collins.
Stop.
Good evening, Heather Grant, 901 First Street Northeast. This is the first time that we've heard anything about this already being a done deal. other than rumors from some people who were probably with lobbyists. But you could still, to protect your citizens prior to signing the development agreement, consider a pause or moratorium. Right now, at least 63 local governments have introduced moratorium, while state level, it's in 11 states. During that time, you could take the responsible move that the Planning and Zoning Board recommended and visit a city that has a hyperscale data center with a closed loop system and talk to the residents. See how they like it. Even closed loop systems can increase the temperature 16 degrees. We don't really need that when it's 110 degrees in the summertime. Prior to signing this, ensure that there's systems and facilities to manage fires and the liability falls on the facility for any potential disasters. Require in writing that the sound study accounts for both decibel level and low frequency sound impacts. Require in writing that the developer conduct a study of air pollution, what it is now and so we have a baseline that will occur at both the facilities and within a 10-mile radius. Prohibit the developer or tenant from seeking exemptions from permitting under the Clean Air Act for on-site generators, and prohibit in writing the construction and use of on-site natural gas turbines that cause a lot of pollution, both noise and air. Fort Meade is our home. You are all elected with the understanding that you would protect us, our children, and elderly. Step up, don't sell us out, or you'll kill the town. Thank you.
Jeanette Collins and Tim Grave.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Collins, 505 North Polk Avenue. I've only lived in Fort Meade since March 2025. I moved over from Hillsborough County to be closer to my family and enjoy life in a small community again. I have lived in a town of 3,500 in upstate New York, but of course we had a decent grocery store and gas was 33 cents a gallon. What I am having a hard time understanding is why something so important to life in Fort Meade, this proposed data center, has not once been brought to an open vote with citizens of Fort Meade. And I understand that this was put in by the previous administration, but I fully believe there is a way to rescind that, and it should be done. The people of this city don't want it. Insufficient information on the effects of this land use. I believe it hasn't been done enough. What provisions have been made to protect native wildlife that has made it homes in the area? Relocation efforts or bury them where they are? In regard to the water that we required and how it will affect the aquifer, or if it will reduce available water supply to the residents and drain any existing water storage abilities the town currently has. In the event of a natural disaster, hurricanes and the like, who will get preference over water usage, the residents or the data center? Same question goes to the electric grid. Will all the residents be first to receive power reconnect, or will the data center? This is very important. Data centers have been pushed back by communities in several states, as you previously heard. Please look online. Many cities and states are trying to ban their construction and have done so. St. Lucie County has rejected a $13.1 billion, yes, billion project in 2025. They voted 4-2 to deny it. Palm Beach County had proposed 1.8 million square foot facility postponed following the community disapproval. Leon County is organized to oppose 3 separate proposed data centers, citing noise pollution.
That's time.
Thank you.
I don't talk fast enough.
Tim Grave and Robert Anazola.
Tim Grant, 901 First Street Northeast. Found an article, I did some due diligence. On April 7th, 2026, I'll say that again, April 7th. That's a week ago. Project Jupiter in New Mexico. Significant investment of Doña Ana County, New Mexico, aimed at creating a major data center campus. The project is 1,400 acres and includes 4 data center buildings, microgrid facilities, natural gas power plants, and a battery storage center, and a desalinization plant. The facility will utilize a closed-loop, non-evaporative cooling system, ensuring it does not draw water from local water system. Additionally, the project will invest in essential county water infrastructure improvements and will use a dedicated microgrid and independently power the site, ensuring no impact to the cost of electricity for the other customers in the region. Project Jupiter plans to use nearly 1 million gallons of water per day, the New Mexico Office of State Engineer says. That number is 50 times more than the project's developers had disclosed publicly and does not appear to be consistent with the language they share with the public or on their website. Months after construction began, Project Jupiter remains highly controversial. That's largely because the developers have asked for the ability to emit about 13 million tons of greenhouse gases per year. That's roughly equivalent to the average annual emissions of 3 million gas-powered automobiles, according to an estimate of emissions from the Environmental Protection Agency. A decision of that air quality permit applications are still pending. Developers don't confirm or deny the amount. Water pollution. Closed-loop systems rely on a cocktail of additives such as coercion inhibitors or biocides, any antifreeze blends to make sure that water can flow through a closed-loop system repeatedly. This cocktail can also include forever chemicals or FPAs or PFAs, which can cause altered immune and thyroid function, liver disease, lipid insulin dysregulation, kidney disease, adverse reproductive and developmental outcomes, and cancer. In Oregon, investigative reporters uncovered that more than 97% of the wells tested in the vicinity of a hyperscale AI data center contained water that violated safety standards for nitrate pollution. Residents filed a class action lawsuit against Amazon and 16 other defendants. Amazon has now agreed to pay $20.5 million in a settlement
That's time.
in exchange for
Thank
no
you.
admission of guilt.
Thank you.
Robert Anazole, Claudia Levinson.
Good evening, Commissioners, City Manager, Mr. Mayor, City Attorneys. Robert Anzalone, 6569 Cruz View Loop, Lakeland, Florida. Well, like I said, my name is Robert Anzalone. I'm here as your Democratic candidate for Florida House District 49. Tonight, this community is being asked to confront a decision that could shape Fort Meade and the surrounding districts for decades to come. The proposed hyperscale data center is not a routine project. It is a massive industrial development tied to a 20-year agreement or beyond that, planned for 200-acre campus with a 1,300-acre site, with the initial reports that it could use 1.2 gigawatts of electricity. And in the famous words of Dr. Brown, great Scott, that's a lot of energy. That's enough power to power approximately 1 million active homes at the exact same time. It's also the peak output of a large nuclear reactor, or half the capacity of the Hoover Dam. When a project of this large capacity, the public has every right to demand more than just promises. We have the right to demand proof. We have the right to demand transparency, and we have the right to insist that our local government will protect the people who live here before it protects the interests of any developers. Because let's be honest, what's at stake here? It's the water, it's the power, the infrastructure, pollution and noise, our health. It's about what happens to a small community when a project of this size is approved before any clear public answers are met. We have made it clear the residents and advocates have repeatedly raised concerns about water usage, backup generation, cooling methods, emissions, and long-term environmental impacts of this project. Even now, major questions still remain that I personally have reached out to the developers for and have received no answer. I've received an answer from you guys that have specifically stated we don't have those answers. Now, these major questions still remain about how this facility would operate in practice and who ultimately is going to occupy this at the end of it. This should concern every single one of us because a deal like this is approved because of what's going on right now. The community had no idea that this was approved. Not only that, Mr. Mayor told us at the beginning of this meeting that this was voted on in 2025. How come we can't find those agenda meetings online? We went through, I personally have gone through every one of the agenda meeting packets on the website, and I can't find a single mention of this approval from 2025. I would like an answer to that if possible from any of the members, which I have reached out to personally, and I've only received contact from one of you. I emailed all of you the exact same question in email, and I only received a response from one of you. That's sad. This community deserves answers. This community deserves the impact studies, and that's my time.
Claudia Livingston and Joey Jones.
Hi, I'm Claudia Levinson, 417 4th Street Northeast. Last July, I asked the question, what's going on with the data center? Last June is the only thing we can find online that was approved for the rezoning. Is that what you're considering done? A done deal? Because that's totally unfair to this community. We haven't even discussed the fact of what happens if there's a fire at this location. Nobody in this commission could even get straight on a new fire truck 2 years ago. What's going to happen then? What's going to happen to the air quality here for everybody if that happens? I have asthma. It's going to directly affect me. It's going to affect the neighbor across the street. It's going to affect my grandkids. Has anyone discussed this? Do you know? Have you done any research on what's going to happen? Do we have the training for it, let alone the facility and the personnel? Fairfax, Virginia, over 100 firefighters for one fire, not once in a week, not twice in a week, but 3 times in a month. What kind of strain is that going to put on this community? It's really horrible that you all could vote on something, and I know 2 of you were here before, but you can't let the previous vote count today. It has to be today's vote. And your community obviously does not want any part of this. Thank you for my time.
Joey Jones and Nancy Ramirez.
I'm Joey. Address is private. We have been told our concerns have been addressed. Respectfully, that is not true. We are not being given the full science, but only a sales pitch. The community deserves facts, not reassurances. This project is massive. It will demand water, infrastructure, and land in ways that cannot be undone. Water alone is a huge concern. When resources are already strained, moving forward is not responsible. The facts and risks are clear. Data centers run 24/7. Diesel backup generators harm air quality. They disrupt ecosystems. The constant noise and heat are not temporary. They become part of everyday life. We are told protections are in place and agencies like the EPA will step in if problems occur, but oversight after the fact is not prevention. Agencies respond once damage is done, not before. Promises and protections are not guarantees. And what happens when ownership changes? Protections that exist today may not survive tomorrow. This community could be left relying on safeguards that the new owners are not required to uphold. Here's the pattern. These facilities target rural, lower-income communities. Why? Because we have fewer resources to push back. Fort Meade and nearby communities will face the same burdens: high water use, constant noise, pollution, and industrial disruption. This is not about helping anyone financially. This is about taking advantage of a community that deserves protection, fairness, and respect. This is not growth. Data centers do not bring businesses, services, small businesses, services, or community amenities. If the goal is to foster healthy growth in Fort Meade, this approach has the opposite effect. It will damage our reputation and discourage people and small businesses from wanting to be a part of this community. That's displacement. This isn't just about, actually, just kidding. It was stated there wasn't enough outcry in the community on this issue, but the problem is not the lack of voices, it is the lack of listening. Your role is to represent the people, and we're asking you to protect us, to say no to the noise, the strain on water, and the loss of what makes this area home. This is not just development, this is about protecting our homes, our history, our wildlife, and our right to live here in peace. Thank you.
Nancy Ramirez and Cayenne Crum.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Ramirez, and I live at 535 7th Street Southeast. I'm here today not just as a resident of Fort Meade, but as someone who deeply cares about the future of our community as I plan to continue to live here for years to come. We are being required to accept a data center that fundamentally will change the character of the town I chose to live in for exchange of dollars. At first glance, this project sounds like progress. We hear words like technology, investment, and growth. But when we look closer, the reality feels very different. As you know, data centers consume enormous amounts of electricity. That kind of demand doesn't just disappear in the background, or we can just give it to the next person. It puts pressure on power grids, and ultimately, it will impact residents through higher cost and increased infrastructure in one way or another. Even if they promise it's not for us directly. Love thy neighbor. Think about that. It is a fact that data centers use vast amounts of water. In a region where agriculture is vital and water is already lacking, we need this precious resource, and we can't and don't want to share it. Data centers don't belong in Fort Meade, where families live, where children like mine are growing up, and where people have chosen to settle for peace and space. I commute upwards to an hour or more to my job and extracurricular activities for my child for the reason that I love Fort Meade. I do that because I want to live in Fort Meade. Fort Meade is a community, its history, its families. We're not for sale. Once we allow large-scale industries to develop like this, we can't undo it. Consider the precedent that this sets. If we continue to move forward, what comes next? More industrial projects? More strain on our resources? At what point do we stop? Progress should never come at the expense of the people that already live here. We are not against growth. We're not against innovation. But growth should be thoughtful, sustainable. It needs to align with the needs and values of our community, Fort Meade. Right now, this project raises too many concerns and offers too little in return. Money should not be the motive to keep moving forward. I reject this project and anything remotely close to this. I urge all of you to stand with us in every neighboring county to reject this project and to protect the resources, protect the quality of life and the identity of our town. Thank you.
Cayenne Crum and Missy Reiner.
Hello, Cayenne Crum, 1706 Mount Pisgah Road. I'm going to jump around a little bit because I know 3 minutes goes very quickly. First, just to echo what a couple of other people said, I understand that initially this was voted on by council that looked different. but you guys are gonna have to own your vote. You're gonna have to own the decisions that you make, and like people have said, if you wanted to repeal it and change this, you have the power to do that. So to say that there's nothing that can be done at this point, I don't think that we should have to accept that. So that's the first point. The second point is, initially at the meeting with the developer at the high school, we discussed what was going on in Oregon, and at the time it was said, well, there's absolutely no proof that the Amazon Center there had any impact on the health concerns that the residents were having. And I would just like to say at this point, they are paying out $20.5 million settlement. So they are not admitting guilt, but you don't pay that number unless you know that you did something wrong. You're just, especially with attorneys that Amazon can afford, you're not paying out that number if you did nothing wrong. So those are my first two concerns. The other concerns are a lot of what everybody has said. We need to be thinking about the noise pollution, the light pollution, everything going on. My final comment is just to do with, I know there have been some things said online by, I don't know who it was said by, but I heard the comments. I don't think it's ever appropriate for intimidation or violence. And so I found something online about that I'd like to read if I have time. I think it's important that we be honest about what violence actually is. There's a city councilman in Indiana pushed through a data center after the entire neighborhood said no. His house got vandalized and someone left a note saying no data centers. Is that violence? Absolutely it is. But the situation itself, to pretend that the actions taken in boardrooms aren't violence, is to ignore reality. Putting a data center in people's neighborhood, knowing it can pollute their air, affect their water, drive up their electricity costs, impact their health, that's not neutral, that's not just policy, that's harm, that's violence. People in power don't like to call it that. They only recognize violence when it looks loud, chaotic, something you can put on the news, someone yelling, something getting damaged, something that makes people uncomfortable in a visible way. But the quiet decisions made in boardrooms and city meetings that slowly chip away at people's quality of life, that gets labeled as business as usual, and that's the problem. Most of the real harm happening in this country comes from people in suits making decisions that affect entire communities. What you see on the news is often just the reaction to that. So when he says we can't normalize violence, I hear that. But what he did was normalize it first. And what happened to him, that wasn't okay. It never will be. But it was a reaction to harm that people were already being forced to live with. That's everything. Thank you.
Missy Reiner and Jonathan Cottengim.
Hello. Missy Rainey, US Highway 17 North, Fort Meade. I just have a couple concerns. I have livestock. These heat islands that a normal data center emit anywhere from 3 to 16 degrees. This is a hyperscale data center, which means more intense. I'm about a mile from the furthest corner of this property. And I'm concerned for not only myself, but as a steward to these animals, how is it going to affect them? I don't do this for fun. I do it to reproduce them. So right now we're currently in a water drought. So my question to the commissioners, the mayor, would be respectfully, if you could ask the Stonebridge folks, what is our obligation and the consequences if we cannot supply the 50 million gallons per day? How is that going to affect us? Are we getting sued? What are the consequences? I would like to know, in the sense of transparency and community awareness, how that's going to affect us. Furthermore, I think the land use improvement that has already gone through is not correct, because one of the borders of this 1,300-acre property borders the Alafaya River Rendezvous folks, 400 acres that have been a 56-year primitive encampment. It's not in keeping. It's not in keeping. And finally, I don't really have a lot of faith that you guys have done your due diligence because of, I can't read my notes here. Sorry, scratch that. Thank you for my time.
Jonathan Cotton and Sam Roman.
Jonathan Cottengim, Homeland. When we did the first town hall meeting with the developer, someone asked Doug, would you let one of these be in your backyard? His response was, no. That should be your first clue for everything else behind it. It's been on the news today that Corpus Christi's city, their wells has went dry. They have customers that they have to supply water to. They have people that are paying, but they have no water. The excuse is the data center is using so much water that they can't supply it to their customers. When this becomes obsolete, what happens to it then? Why do the business owners in Fort Meade that y'all say supposedly want this and agree with this, how come they don't say that in public? They say it behind a wall, hiding their hands. People want to know who's telling it, so we know who we want to keep backing up. This will affect Homeland and Rendezvous more than it will City of Fort Meade. Is that the kind of neighbor that Fort Meade wants to be to the communities around them? Finding out tonight that this is already a done deal, when a lot of us has been strung along for the last 6 months, thinking that we had a little bit of influence on what might be going on, and never being told that we're wasting our time, don't come, is kind of disheartening. I gave a commissioner my phone number at the last commission meeting. They said they wanted to discuss this situation with me and my neighbors. It's a month later, no phone call. We're talking about how we want the employees and the staff of the city to do a better job, but it sounds like they need to be led by example. If we can't get the measurements right on a fire truck and a firehouse, how are we supposed to trust that this administration can get this right? If we come back next year and tell you, I told you so, and you were wrong, and you admit you were wrong, it's too late. We can't take it back. Thank you.
Sam Roman, Robert Sneed.
Sam Romaine, I'm the chairman of the Polk County Republican Executive Committee. Ladies and gentlemen of Fort Meade City Commission, thank you for having me. I'm here tonight in full-throated support of this data center because I believe in progress, jobs, and most importantly, I believe a town of 5,000 people absolutely needs a data center with the electrical output of a nuclear plant. Some people are saying this thing uses only 1.2 gigawatts of power. That's enough power for 1 million homes. And I say, yeah, for Fort Meade, who has about 2,000 homes, it's only 500 times our current capacity. That's not a red flag, that's a flex. Some of our neighbors raised concerns about water. They heard 140,000 gallons a day. The developer got nervous and they listened. They revised it down to 50,000 gallons. That's a 64% reduction. And quite frankly, if I told my wife I was going to only spend 36% of our savings on a boat, she would call that a compromise. That's leadership. And the cooling system, handled by a closed-loop system, which, by the way, I Googled in the parking lot, I'm pretty sure it means it's all okay. We're fine. Now, the economy. This facility is going to generate $138 million in annual tax revenue. The tax break was only $150 million. And by the way, the developer investing $10 million to upgrade our water systems, that's very generous considering they're the reason that we'll need that. Jobs. This data center will create high-paying technical positions for people who won't live here, and they won't even move here, preserving our way of life. They might drive through on their way to the facility, and they might stop for gas, and that gas station attendant, he is going to feel that economic ripple. Some residents worry their electric bills might go up. To those people, I say, possibly, but think about what you're getting in return. Somewhere in a building you can't enter, behind a fence you can't cross, a server you'll never see, is helping that teenager in San Francisco generate AI art of a cat wearing a sombrero. That's your contribution to the American dream. I've also heard concerns about who's actually going to lease the facility. Nobody actually knows, and I think that's a feature, not a bug. It could be Netflix, it could be the Department of War, heck, even Flock. The point is the possibilities are endless, and I definitely think that we should sign a 20-year agreement before any of this is clear. 500 residents signed a petition opposing this. That's 10% of our population. In most democracies, they'd call that significant. In the data center economy, though, you have to understand, that's just a rounding error. In closing, the developer said it best. Data centers are critical infrastructure. Everything flows through a data center. And he's right, everything flows. Data flows, water flows, money flows, usually out of small towns and into the pockets of Maryland-based development companies. But it flows. Thank you all. God bless Fort Meade. And honestly, God bless whoever ends up leasing this building, whoever that is.
Robert Sneed, Mary McPherson.
My name's Robert Sneed. I live on 509 North Cleveland Avenue. I've been here 60 years. I came in this town, was sent here by a telephone company. They needed a telephone engineer, and I worked here until I retired. Nice little town. I've seen things come and things go. But I can't understand the problem. This gentleman here, I hope he can answer my question. Who owns this company?
Mr. Sneed, please direct all comments to us.
Okay, who owns this company? Can you tell me?
We'll get back with you with all your questions that you have this evening. Okay, thank you. Please continue. Thank you.
Okay. They talking about a loop system. You say, don't talk to him, but he's talking about the loop water system. Does he know how deep he's going to have to go under land that is not virgin soil? He will have to go probably 80 foot deep with a loop system to make it work. Okay? Now, if you're in the green swamp, 20 foot would probably do it because you got water up there. But you don't hear. So, I don't know. You're talking about the money. If you're getting $5 million, is the residents of Fort Meade, are they being held by it? Or it just goes to the city and it's dispersed on what happens to it? Yeah? That's the question I asked. Well, I will like to say this. You know, the old saying goes, money talks and you know what walks. And this is what's happening.
Mary McPherson and Lisa Rice.
Hi, I'm Mary McPherson. I live at 502 North Cleveland Avenue. Mr. Sneed is my neighbor across the street, and he has been for 33 years. So I've lived here that long. I'm married into Fort Meade. I was born in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, very historical town. I appreciate the history here in Fort Meade because of that. I've lived on the plains of Nebraska. I appreciate blue skies, fresh air, clean water, seeing cows roam. You know, that's the kind of things. I'm a rural girl. And one of the things I love about Fort Meade, I was raised in Pennsylvania, a town smaller than Fort Meade. We didn't even have a traffic light. We had a three-way stop. That's all we had. But everybody's gone over the digits and numbers and facts and figures and what they like, what they don't like. The thing that scares me the most going into the future is the unknowns. You know, not what's right in front of us, not what they can give us pictures of or, you know, presentations of. It's the unknowns. And there's a lot tied to these type of buildings, you know. I would rather look around the area and see cows grazing, you know, on pasture land and crops, strawberries, blueberries growing in the fields. I want to look out my front door when the moon's not full and see stars at night. I don't want to see concrete, metal, plastic, and power lines. That's not who I want as my neighbors. So, I mean, a certain amount of it, yeah, you have to have, but this thing, I don't think we need this thing, you know? And if it comes, I think there's gonna be more behind it. We all know what industry does to land, certain industries, and there's a big one around here, and there's a lot of land that's been ruined because of it, you know, and it's taken years and years and years to get any use back out of that land. So that's, I'm not overly educated. I have a high school education, and a lot of this stuff is way over my head, but you know, we count on you all to protect us, to protect the city, and do what's best. And that's, we're all here.
That's time.
Just
Thank
being
you.
honest.
Thank you.
Lisa Rice, Sean Mallett.
My name's Lisa Rice, 504 North Pine Avenue, Fort Meade, Florida. I am also a member of EcoSwift. Let me get this out of the way. I love Fort Meade. If the data center comes, it's going to ruin my life, and I will have to probably move out of town if I want to maintain what I want. And I didn't think I would have to go house hunting in my 60s. So 4.4 million square foot facility. That's the size of 76 NFL football fields. Do you think a facility that size will have any negative impact on our environment, wetlands, life, drinking water, and quality of air? 4.4 million square foot. That's the size of 4 Lakeland Amazon distribution centers, 4 of them. That is what we will be driving to, past, every time we leave Fort Meade. I don't want to be an industrial city. And also, the facility is going to use twice the amount of power that it takes to power Tallahassee. That, the generators, and I know I keep harping on that because I kind of like breathing. When Duke, whatever it is, they take over the power, that's going to be that much more emissions from us. Whether they use fossil fuels, they will probably opt for natural gas since there is a pipeline there, but the natural gas is worse for us. So please keep that in mind. Heat islands, you've heard it, the study's 16 degrees Fahrenheit. Per our own United Land Development Code 3060210, heat, cold, dampness, or movement of air activities that shall produce any adverse effects or temperatures or motion outside shall not be permitted past the lot line. That 16 degrees is going to pass that, and it will affect us. Off the hip. The fact that we're here tells me that this is not a done deal. You do have it in your power to rescind this. I know it's not easy, but it can be done. And I pray that you take care of Fort Meade's citizens before a developer. Air emissions. There shall be no air emissions of fumes, gases, noxious, on, and that will cause harm, irritation to animals, vegetation, or any of the property. Again, one of our own unified land development codes. Hazardous waste. The city must take care of the hazardous waste. The e-waste, and then our wildlife. During the development process review, the city needs to utilize the services of Florida Game Freshwater Commission to determine the adverse...
That's time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean Mallett and Ron Martin.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners, City Manager, attorneys, and others. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. For the record, my name is Sean Malat, and I'm the President of the Central Florida Development Council, which is Polk County's economic partnership, and my address is 1725 Bartow Road in Lakeland. And so we would like to express our support for the proposed data center. The Polk County Board of County Commissioners approved an economic incentives for this project last November in a public hearing to encourage this type of investment in Polk County. From an economic development perspective, this project situated on 1,300 acres of formerly mined land next to a power plant. That is the reason why this project is here in this community, because of the proximity to the power that's there. So that's really important to consider. This represents really a meaningful opportunity to diversify the local economy, attract private investment, and strengthen the city's tax base in a way that supports long-term investment in infrastructure and city services. Data centers are coming to Florida. They will utilize resources from that power plant, and this is an opportunity to be able to capture that again, impact here within the community from a tax base. It could be across the line, nearby, also impacting some of these comments within Fort Meade, and yet the city would not have that economic impact. So that's important to recognize. So we know that growth must be approached thoughtfully, and we commend the city for carefully evaluating infrastructure, utilities, and overall community compatibility. The thought and planning in the development agreement process has put the right safeguards in place to position Fort Meade for long-term economic resilience while preserving its character. And we appreciate the leadership and your consideration over this long process. This has been a long process since last June, and there have been multiple meetings that I've been involved in public hearings that I've been involved in. And again, these are all good things to consider, and ultimately the developer and whoever the end user will create a better project here in this community. And again, I'm encouraged by what I hear, and again, I think that this is an opportunity that truly the commission needs to consider. So thank you. Have a good evening.
Ron Martin, Christina Reichert.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners, City Manager. I'd like to say that from the very beginning of knowing about this data center was hard to understand. After talking to the city manager on Main Street one afternoon, I thought that we could do better. Stonebridge is from Maryland, has never built a data center. So I asked him, I said, Mr. Bell, where are you from? Well, he said he grew up in Maryland, and his dad was working in the Defense Department. I said, well, have they ever built data centers? And his answer was no. So how can we trust somebody that's never built a data center to build a hyperscale data center? To trust the facts we're never told at the town hall meeting either. So I asked him, I said, well, we have FUMPA, which is our power electorate, which is a conglomerate in Orlando. But there's no substations, there's no power lines there. So I asked him, I said, well, who provides our electricity? And you'd be surprised. He said Duke has been here for 30 some odd years. Oh, I didn't know that. Do y'all know that? TECO's also been providing power, Peace River Electric. So I said, well, why can't we as citizens get some of that power from them if they've already crossed the line? And then he said, well, it's the franchise fees that we're looking for with Duke Energy getting a sweetheart deal for Stonebridge. But you know what? For 30 some odd years, we have not gotten the 6% franchise fees. That's a surprise to me. Is it a surprise to you? So we need to be honest with our citizens, and we need to be honest with everybody. Let's have the facts. Let's not hold it transparency Transparency has been lacking in this from the very beginning, and we all know it. So now tonight you tell us that the contract's already been approved. How? How can the citizens not know that and come to this meeting tonight not knowing the truth? That's all I'm asking for is the truth. And as a Christian man, I don't understand how the mayor could come and not tell us before the meeting now, how did this happen? How in the world could we not know that it's already been approved?
That's time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christina Riker and Nate Tenaya.
Hi, Christina Reichert, Senior Attorney with Earth Justice. I'm here on behalf of the Environmental Confederation of Southwest Florida. You point to the zoning decision that was made in June of 2025, but this commission is making a decision today. And there's been sufficient new information that's been presented by citizens here, by us in the records and documents that we've provided to justify a change in position. But the city is moving fast and furious. Planning and zoning was last week. Notice came today that the city may not actually have 50,000 gallons of water per day for this development. But rather than pausing, you introduced a last-minute contingency into the contract that was not provided to anybody here, except for spoken. And you talk about these so-called community benefits, but I think we've heard from everybody here today that these do not address the concerns of the citizens of this town. And they weren't at the table when you negotiated this development agreement. This is not a community benefits agreement in any way, shape, or form. And so I think, considering how the costs to this community will be so far exceeded to the benefits of this contract, the city should vote no, and it should make sure it takes the time to negotiate agreement that benefits their residents. Thank you.
Nate Tenaya and Natalie Wright.
Nathaniel Tenaya, 1405 U.S. Highway 98 East, Fort Meade, Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the community and community leaders, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am not against progress, technology, or innovation. I support positive growth. I'm a simple man, a father, a firefighter, and outdoor enthusiast. Many in this room are motivated by a sincere desire for economic progress, industry, and opportunity. Those motivations are real, valid, and deeply human. We all want a future where our families thrive, where our children have meaningful careers, and where our community is not left behind. But wanting progress does not mean accepting any proposal labeled as progress. The proposed hyperscale data center in Fort Meade comes with significant concerns that deserve to be spoken aloud again, again, and again. A facility this magnitude would demand massive electricity consumption, straining an already challenged grid. It would require millions of gallons of water in a region where water security is becoming more fragile each year. It would generate heat, noise, and particulate matter that can affect respiratory wellness, and it would place enormous pressure on the Florida Wildlife Corridor, especially here in Fort Meade, one of its most critical bottlenecks. This corridor is not just land, it is a living artery that sustains species, ecosystems, and the natural heritage of our state. If we choose a path that compromises health, nature, and long-term resilience, then we are not choosing progress, we are choosing short-term gain at the cost of generational loss. But I am not here merely to highlight problems. I am here to offer a vision worthy of this community, worthy of Polk County, and worthy of the United States of America. Imagine instead that these 1,300 acres become a national model for sustainable, regenerative, and community-driven development, a place that honors the land, elevates the people, and strengthens our nation. Did you know that Lowe's is offering $250 million towards skilled trades education? Mike Rowe Works Foundation is offering scholarships for skilled trades. Skilled trades are the impossible infrastructure that we get to use every single day. We need skilled trade workers. Imagine a campus that integrates regenerative agriculture, education, skilled trades, renewable energy, fitness and wellness facilities, nature-based entertainment, and business incubators, all operating in a circular economic ecosystem where waste becomes resource, where learning becomes livelihood, and where community becomes culture. Imagine a place where people are not only educated in skilled trades, but in leadership, character, integrity, and the timeless principles that shape their constitution. Thank you for your time.
Natalie Wright, Curtis Gibson.
Good evening, Natalie Wright, 300 South Washington Avenue. Hard to know where to start. There's been a lot of comments tonight, many really good comments. People have taken time to prepare. I did not be able to have the time to properly prepare and write a speech, but I did have the time to read this development agreement, and there are a lot of problems in it. So before you vote yes, I hope that y'all have taken time to go item by item in this contract. My absolute favorite line of this contract: whereas this agreement is in the best interest of the public health, safety, and welfare of the city, and provides an economic benefit to the residents of this city. I'm not sure that any of y'all can promise those things and guarantee those things, and I sure haven't heard specifically what the economic benefits are going to be. Let's move on to the $10 million in advancement. A month ago, I came up to this podium and I asked, was it city staff that requested the $10 million, or did Stonebridge offer the $10 million in advance? I was told I would get back with me, and I have not received an answer yet. I'm okay with not getting an answer, and I don't think I'm going to get an answer to my other questions tonight. But there's a lot of unknown factors in this contract. Specifically, has anybody, have y'all taken the time to run the calculations to see how long it is going to take to pay back this $10 million in tax credits? Is it going to be decades after decades? Mr. Furstenberg has been quoted in every paper saying that we're going to generate $100 million in tax revenue on an annual basis. That's crazy. When you Google who pays the most ad valorem taxes in the entire United States, it is the General Motors skyscraper in New York City. They pay $80 million a year. Can you imagine something being built in little old Fort Meade, and we're going to be collecting the highest ad valorem taxes in the entire United States? We are being pitched by a salesperson. Data centers are needed right now for the tech companies, and they are desperate to get these built. So they're going to promise and try to make it sound as good as it can get, but it's not. I also have a problem with why we're giving them tax credits back and why we're going to give them impact fee credits. And in the contract, it doesn't specify how much in impact fee credits that we're going to be receiving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Curtis Gibson, Barb Fuqua.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name's Curtis Gibson. I'm from Lake Wells. We're neighbors. As a former city commissioner and a candidate for Florida 18 Congressional District, I heard the mayor's opening remarks. I heard the zoning is done. This has already been passed. But as anyone who has sat in those seats knows, the development agreement is where the rubber meets the road. Tonight isn't about if they can't build it. It's about whether this specific 20-year contract actually protects the people of Fort Meade. The agreement says this will be a closed-loop system using only 50,000 gallons a day. But Earth Justice and environmental experts are sounding the alarm that no hyperscale AI center of this size actually operates on that little water. My question is this, and I hope you write this down. Does this agreement have a clawback provision? If they sign this tonight and the developers find that they actually need 5 million gallons per day to keep the servers from melting, what is the penalty? Or does the city just foot the bill while our residents' wells go dry? The agreement discusses backup generators. We're talking about 100% backup for gigawatt scale facilities. This agreement locks in the noise levels for 20 years. If the quiet conversation, decibel levels promised by the developer turns out to be a low frequency hum that keeps residents awake or affects the local wildlife corridor, does this agreement gives the city the power to shut them down? Or are we signing away our right to complain for the next 2 decades? We still don't know who is actually moving in. As a property manager, I would never sign a 20-year lease without knowing the tenant's track record. This agreement is a blank check to an unknown entity. I'm asking the commission, why the rush? If the water management district is already raising the red flag about our permits, why sign a blind 20-year contract before those permits are secured? A yes vote tonight isn't just procedural steps, it's a 20-year marriage. If the terms aren't airtight or airtight, if there are no protections for our water, our air, or our quiet way of life, then this agreement is a bad deal for Fort Meade. I urge you to table this vote until the water permits are in hand and the residents have total transparency. Thank you.
Please abstain from clapping. Thank you. Thank you.
Barb Fakwa and Robert Fakwa.
Kudos to you for trying. It's Barbara Nelson Fuquay.
Fuquay, sorry about that.
It's okay, it's all right. At least you tried, most people don't. I live at 2489 Gabriel Road. I have lived in Fort Meade for 5 years. I was born and raised in Wisconsin. I've lived in Florida for 25 years. I escaped Wesley Chapel for Fort Meade. And the Wisconsin part of it, I have my first inkling of data centers, although I didn't know that's what it was at the time. About 10 years ago, I have a relative that works in Wisconsin at a business that was manufacturing these things that were going to have to cool down excessive amounts of heat for something that was being built in Canada, a cold environment. And they didn't know a lot about it. They were just providing these things. Well, here we are today. We know what they were being provided for. So, and my thoughts are going to be a little bit random. I'm just going to respond to some of the things that were said tonight. The heat, the ambient heat, again, changing the temperature of the environment around us. The lady that has the livestock, and we've heard in other parts of the country, there's studies about humans, reproductive systems being affected. What about the livestock? There's grassroots efforts all over the country that are pushing back against these things. The man that had the list, West Bend, Wisconsin, can be added to that list as well. And I know there's a lot of other communities and entire states. I didn't even know that. The lady that spoke first, the property appraiser, I was at the town hall meeting earlier, and the property values. We moved here again to escape Wesley Chapel. We moved to Fort Meade because of the environment here. We purchased a property, a small property. We have some livestock as well, and it was a rundown property. We spent our blood, sweat, and tears over the last 5 years to create a home here. If the data center had been here, we wouldn't have moved here. This is not a place that would have been on our list to move to. I think they mentioned earlier that the community is cash strapped. I mean, to me, that feels like Fort Meade is being targeted. Let's see. You say you're listening, but I think we all feel that we're not being heard. Somebody mentioned that we're not for sale. I agree. And the young man with the vision for the property, that's amazing. That's an amazing vision for the community. It would benefit everybody.
That's time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Fuquay, Diane Bellinger.
Good afternoon. Robert Fuquay, 2489 Gable Road. I have no speech. I have no data. I just go and speak. Listening to everybody in a room of 200-300 people, there was one fellow that was in support, but I am here to show my non-support. So other than to beat a dead horse, I hope and pray that you plan on rescinding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Diane Bellinger, Madeline Dupree.
Diane Bellinger's not here.
Okay. Madeline Dupree, Athena Wilson.
Magdalene Dupre, Lakeland, Florida. I'm representing the local grassroots collective Defund Oligarchy Blessed by Liberty. I'm Hispanic, asthmatic, and I grew up in poverty here in Polk County next to a cattle ranch that does not exist anymore. My grandparents came to this country for a better life, yet families like mine are at increased risk of respiratory illness due to policy decisions like this data center. Commissioners, Audre Lorde wrote, "The master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. They may allow us to temporarily beat him at his own game, but they will never bring about actual change." This data center proposal is just a new tool for an old problem: environmental racism and classism. In 1983, Robert Ballard established how environmental racism is systematic, not coincidence, through an investigation into how his city of Houston was placing waste facilities. He found that all 5 city-owned garbage dumps, 6 of 8 incinerators, and 3 of 4 privately owned landfills were placed in black neighborhoods despite Houston being only 25% black. Governments and private industry were intentionally targeting communities with limited political power based on race and class. A 1987 national study by the Commission for Racial Justice confirmed these findings, finding 3 out of 5 Hispanic and Black Americans live in communities with uncontrolled toxic waste sites. Today, Fort Meade is economically struggling, the type of struggle that makes high-risk, low-reward deals like this attractive. This diverse community has a median income of $36,000, a perfect target. Working-class families are the ones who will bear the environmental consequences, yet our interests are historically underrepresented in the decision-making process. This proposal brings pollution in air, water, light, heat, noise, and electromagnetic pollution, while straining an already compromised infrastructure. The company is offering minimal benefits while demanding extensive tax breaks. This type of cost-benefit analysis rarely gets this far in wealthier, wider areas. Stonebridge has offered direct investment, but corporations don't commit, they calculate. Based on research by Purdue University on digital redlining, this type of developer likely has already offered more to a richer, wider city that said no. I urge you to delay this project, if only to call their bluff. They will likely, based on research, come back with a better deal. Dismissing public opposition does not mean the corporation you are entertaining will ignore their profit margins. A corporation will always exploit vulnerabilities during site selection while maintaining flexibility to relocate when better opportunities emerge. When the math no longer adds up, a developer will cut their losses, and Fort Meade will be left holding a bag of debt and half-finished infrastructure projects. Stand with your neighbors, protect your community.
That's time.
Don't sacrifice to an altar based to II.
Athena Wilson and Tina Barnett.
Hi, my name's Athena Wilson. I'm from Lakeland, Florida. I'm here because I care about my neighbors in Fort Meade. The mayor mentioned that last year, under the previous administration, the decision was passed to allow this data center to be built. While it's disingenuous to imply that you cannot repeal this decision, it's even more ridiculous to imply that this is a done deal. This is not true, and I'm so proud of my community for pushing back against your claim. Why are we even here if it's a done deal? It doesn't make sense. You have the power to vote no and be a roadblock in this development, or like Curtis mentioned, you can vote to table the decision. AI was sold to us as a tool for the future that will make the world a better place. Years later, we are at the point of the AI bubble being popped. AI is being used for bullying, stealing jobs, training weapons. People weren't as informed about data centers a year ago when you all voted. Research is coming back, and we are made more aware of the harmful effects of data centers. The noise, the emissions, the lack of transparency, and most importantly, the water. The pros outweigh the cons. As far as water is concerned, we are in one of the largest droughts since 2001. And growing water security concerns with the mass migration of people moving to Florida and Polk County as a whole, simply put, we're not equipped for this data center. So I'm asking that you vote no. I'm also encouraging Duke Energy customers, maybe you might want to suggest to call your service provider. I feel like your rates are about to skyrocket, and potentially you might be encountering rolling blackouts. From what I saw, there were 4 other bodies that have the power to do this as well, but I'm hoping that you will be a roadblock in this. So that's all that I have. Thank you.
All right, who do we have next?
Tina Barnett and Frank Coolidge.
Tina Barnett, Fort Meade, Florida, 2711 US Highway 98 East. I've been a resident of Fort Meade for 55 of almost 69 years. The information I will be submitting to our city clerk is information that I submitted to the Fort Meade Planning and Zoning Board members at their last meeting. These are copies of emails I exchanged with the FortMeadeDataCenter.com. At the town hall meeting on January 29th, Mr. Furstenberg, of Stonebridge, I requested their prior experience in building data centers. Stonebridge's official website featured only projects related to real estate. He recommended that I submit a request for that information from the FortMeadeDataCenter.com. I requested the information and received only the information that the principals of Stonebridge have completed the design and construction of more than 30 data centers. When I submitted a request for the location of these constructed data centers, I received the response, due to confidentiality obligations, we do not disclose specific site names or city level locations. As I told the Planning and Zoning Board members, I had requested that information so that I personally could investigate one of these sites to familiarize myself with their work and visit with those in that community. I did recommend to the Planning and Zoning Board that the commissioners need to visit an actual data center developed by Stonebridge. Megan Burke Zahara of the Planning and Zoning Committee made that recommendation before they voted to present this contract to you. When reviewing Stonebridge's website, there are currently 4 principals listed. Of those 4, only one principal has listed any data center experience in his online bio. Mr. Tracy Vargo, who is also currently a partner in V Squared Workshop. I was able to just research their website and found only one location that is currently under construction under them. All of this information is included. There are also several business journal articles in relations to Stonebridge's laws of first time in 30 years in 2024, prior to Mr. Vargo joining the Stonebridge Corporation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Frank Coolidge.
Before we move on to the next person, Vice Mayor McCutcheon. I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, given the time, 8:57, I'd like to know how many we have left, and permission, I move to continue the meeting past the 9 o'clock hour.
Okay, so to answer that question, Vice Mayor, how many individuals do we have left?
3.
3? Okay, great. As Vice Mayor McCutcheon has stated, we need a motion to move the meeting past the 9 p.m. hour. So moved. Do we,
Second.
Great. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed. We will continue. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Frank Coolidge and Debbie Mondale.
Okay.
Okay. Rebecca Swirls.
Okay.
Whoops. Maybe I'm a little unfocused. So it's my understanding that this is a 20-year contract, and then the last zoning meeting.
I'm sorry. Can we have your name and address for the record? Thank
Okay,
you.
Rebecca Lynn Sorrells, 107 South Henry Avenue, Fort Meade, Florida, 33841.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So 20-year contract. Are we including the 6 years of construction with that? Are we even thinking about the enormous amount of water usage that, if I pull out AI, I can ask the ramifications of a lot of water usage or sinkholes? Did anybody mention that or say anything about that? I, for one, don't want my house going into the ground. I don't think anyone would. I don't really see the benefit of this for anyone. Everyone that I've met has talked about leaving this town if this goes through. So who's going to stay? Who's going to benefit from that money if everyone moves? Because they're afraid. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of being poisoned, of my aquifer, of my animals, of my neighbors. My neighbor's wife has brain cancer. They're going through enough. They're talking about leaving with me. Because I'm not staying till my property value drops and I can get nothing out of it. And then I'm stuck here. I have no way to move. I have nowhere to go. A lot of people feel like that. I may be a transplant, but my great-grandparents are buried at the end of my road on Hendry in that cemetery. My parents, my mother, I remember her saying she taught her sisters and brothers how to swim by pushing them off the little floating dock, but they swim. But I have memories here. I have a community here. And even as sick and as in pain I am with this right here, I thought it was important for me to come and address you one more time, because what you're doing here today, the decisions that you make today, not who made those decisions before, will carry with you for the rest of your lives and the rest of our lives. And I want you to really dig deep and think about that, because once done can't be undone. How are we benefiting from this if we're going to have to move because we're in jeopardy? Our health is in jeopardy. Our family's health is in jeopardy. Thank you so much. That's all I have to say, and I am leaving to go to the emergency room. Thank you.
Also, Mr. Mayor, we received a letter of support on March 4th from Sean Malott, and then also that needs to be read into the record. But also, we received one March 16th from Eric Sheardon, a letter of support for the data center. So I wanted to mention that into the record.
Thank you, thank you. And did we have anyone else on the list?
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Excuse me. Let's please maintain order. Let's please maintain order. Okay. There's no one else on your list?
No, sir.
Okay. No. So there is a timer and on display for everyone on all of the screens that do the countdown. This is the closeout of our public forum. With this, I'm sorry.
My name is Debbie Mondale. I'm on the list. They called two names and the other person didn't come up, and I didn't come up quick enough.
Okay, so let's have you come up. Okay, all right, thank you.
The one I called Debbie Mondale. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. I'm Debbie Mondale. I live at 6825 Ranch Road in Lakeland, Florida. I do have a well, and personally, that's one of the issues that I'm most concerned about is the aquifer and being able to make sure. We've already had to re-drill our well deeper because the water level went lower. There's not that much going on that we could go farther. I'm not quite sure how all that works. As a point of reference, I grew up in a town in Texas that was, there was a company that was a very big part of that town, and they provided a lot of jobs. They provided pre-K schooling. They provided a urgent care type of facility because it was a very small town, like teeny tiny. But the company was an integral part of the community, and there was a lot of what they gave to the community was what the community needed to be able to continue to thrive. And it sounds like this particular agreement is a lot of taking and not a lot of giving. And if you're looking at $10 million and how much an AI center is going to make, that's like a rounding error for them. So being able to have to pay it back seems like it's there could be more reasonable ways of being able to make this agreement work, but it sounds like there's a lot of people that just don't agree that this is what this community needs, because there's not that integral giving and taking. It sounds like a lot more taking than giving. Thank you.
Thank you. With that said, before the commission engages, I just want to ask of you, if you look to your left or to your right, and the people that we are here with, our neighbors, our friends, this is when government works at its best, when the community is engaged. Public speaking is very scary for a lot of people. So thank you for taking the time to come again this evening and voice your thoughts and your concerns, and for the respect and courtesy that you showed your neighbors and your friends so that everyone could be heard tonight. So again, we want to say thank you. At this time, with our commission, do we have any questions, concerns that you have for the developer regarding the development agreement before us this evening? And City Attorney, would you like to?
And certainly the commission, you all are welcome to engage with the developer. I just also wanted to note that pursuant to your quasi-judicial procedure guidelines, they are entitled to rebuttal as well.
Thank you.
If they would like to take that opportunity.
Thank you. Would you all like to at this time? Okay.
Elise Batzel for the record. We're happy to answer your questions, and then if there's anything that isn't addressed, we're happy to address that in rebuttal, but perhaps we'll answer a lot of those questions and we won't need rebuttal.
Okay, so thank you. Again, anyone on the commission have any questions regarding the development agreement before us tonight that you'd like to ask the developer?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Taylor?
No, I don't have any questions. I have a few comments. Is this the appropriate time for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I basically have three things to say. First of all, there are people who are in this room or have been in this room who really took part in some shameful activities, threatening. I have made sure that my cameras are all working at my home, that I'm protected, that my family's protected, that my pets are protected, and to feel that way, giving of my time, is really despicable. Every single person in this room uses AI, whether they know it or not, every single day. And to have the NIMBY, not in my backyard way of thinking, when this is coming, it's coming to Florida, it's coming to Polk County, and if this doesn't work out, there are two other companies, and I don't think we've heard this enough, there are two other companies that are waiting in the wings to watch how this goes, and they are within the same proximity outside the city limits. So we will have none of the benefits, but all of the hassle. I agree that there are probably some negatives. I grew up in a town that had a large facility for Boehringer Ingelheim, a large corporation, but they became partners with the city. And that's one of the things that these folks are offering. I think it's naive to feel that we are immune from progress, especially in Polk County, Florida, where we are in one of the fastest growing counties still in the country, in the Lakeland, Winter Haven general area. And we moved here to get out of Lakeland because the crowds were there. So people say things like, oh, well, this is going to bring a lot of people. It's going to bring construction people, but then the jobs are, again, limited. I think it's insulting to the people of Fort Meade to say there is nobody smart enough who lives in this town who can work and do these jobs. Well, how self-deprecating is that to think that people in this town cannot learn the trade and take advantage of some of the things that the folks are offering? Am I torn about it? Yes, because we have had, it weighs on me. We've had a lot of discussions. But there are a lot of people supporting it. I've had a lot of people come to me. They are hesitant to speak out because of the vandalism on the bridge and the threats online. They're not going to put themselves into that position to say that they are for it. We have a few letters that have come in. I've received letters. I spoke when we spoke earlier about it. We're here to talk about the development agreement. Yes, we could go back on our word. But at this point, it will just be something else. Do you want a car plant that has trucks coming and going? Again, 24 hours? Do you want a pig farm? A chicken house? Do you want...
Excuse me. Please be respectful. Thank you.
Do you want something that smells like that? We already have radioactive soil from the industry that was so touted that we've named our football team after it. The hypocrisy and the hyperbolic, vitriolic nonsense online has really turned my stomach. And I just want to put that out there. I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback and a lot of flack from it. Just be aware that you've got to look internally if you were one of those people. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Commissioner Lott, I think you have some questions. Forgive me for presuming.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Honestly, I was just gonna ask, just because apparently transparency word of the day. There was a gentleman who asked what happens if you hit the allotted amount of water. Is that something that you could explain for everyone? Because it's in the agreement that we have capped it at the 50,000 gallons, and just so that everyone knows what happens at that point if it comes to that.
The water's going to be metered, and if we hit 50,000 gallons a day, you're going to stop supplying us water. It's that simple. So we're going to have to design our systems, monitor our systems to work within the allotment you're giving us. We're not going to be able to drill wells. We'll never get them approved. So we are going to live and design and operate this facility based on the water in the agreement, which is, as Elise mentioned earlier, the thing the city is doing in this agreement, providing us that water subject to us getting all the appropriate permits.
Thank you.
Before you sit down.
Oh, sorry, one second, Commissioner Watts. Commissioner Lott, I didn't know if you were done. All right, thank you, Commissioner Watts.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I was just assuming I might be Dick coming this way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ms. Thurston, it's been mentioned that y'all have no experience building data centers. Is that correct?
It's not correct.
Could you tell us a little elaborate, please?
We have built, the principals of the firm have built over 30 data centers of totaling just under a gigawatt.
Okay. Also, what have you thought about, and what kind of commitments could you make, or possibly make to the homeland residents with all water wells? Are you going to be doing something that's going to pollute the aquifer?
Yeah, so our plans have all of our storm discharge, not our wastewater discharge, which was going to the city, will go into our ponds, which will be treated for quantity and quality. And that'll all be approved by the regulatory agencies in the state and the county. So we have to meet or exceed their standards for that to be approved. So that should lead to no impact.
That'll be your own site.
Correct, yes, sir. Yes, the ponds are, yeah, sorry, the ponds are located on our property.
Okay, and I believe it was the auditorium presentation y'all made when we came down into Q&A session. You mentioned the possibility of working
Commissioner.
with
Commissioner Watts.
Well, sorry, I'm just trying to stay upright right now.
I understand.
But you did mention that there may be a possibility, or I don't remember the exact wording, but work with a school board or a local school sort of to help create a
Training programs.
training program.
Yeah, so
Is
the,
that still a possibility?
yes, so the next steps, as we talked about here, is to do in community engagement.
Right.
And we're going to find what meets the needs of the citizens and the folks in the area. One of the key things we know we will need to do is two things. We're going to have to help with the trades. There's a lot of trade jobs. We're also going to have to help with the 400 to 500 permanent jobs. So, and, you know, we're going to do this for two reasons. One is it's just the right thing to do, but two, we need the skilled craftsmen. We need the people. So we are going to work together. We've already reached out to the schools at Polk, the Polk County schools. We've got initial introductions with Polk State and Poly. So we'll be working over the next year or two for long-term programs to do that. That is something we intend to do.
And would that be strictly for a data center type employment, or would it be for other trades outside possibly?
We're going to train them in the areas that, you know, obviously serve the project, but there'll be no requirement to work at the project. They'll be able to take those skills and go anywhere they want with them.
Okay, there's one more thing that I can remember. We're talking about the water quality and all, and the treatment on site, our regulations, regulatory authorities. How about, and there was talk about the chemicals in the closed loop system. What type of chemicals are included and what are regulated and what not?
So this is a good example of where we are in the process. A system, we're going to have roughly 8 buildings at the project. We will keep designing systems because the world is going to change, the technology will advance. So as we get better, the system will change. That will all go through the regulatory approval process. So we're gonna have to come in and explain it's system A today, and we're gonna go to system B tomorrow, because that's just how technology advances. But to the extent there are chemicals, anything that is regulated, we're gonna have to get the approval. And that'll be a combination of federal, state, and local approvals. At the time when we can give, to ask someone to look at a plan today for a building that hasn't been designed, they can't respond to it. We literally have to walk in with full engineering drawings and the studies so they can look at it. One of the things the city manager said he wanted in this agreement was providing the city every filing, even if it doesn't have to go to the city. Because that way the city could track any filing that's happening. So if they have a particular interest in an issue, they'll know to go to Swift Meadow, they'll know to go to this agency. Because not everything is a local building permit. A lot of these things are, as we said, state, county, regional, even some federal things. So we'll address those as they come along.
So what I'm hearing is there's some commitment there.
We will meet or exceed any requirements that
As
are
the
necessary.
progress of technology comes forward, you will be looking to advance it, because it's also good for your business
Yes,
to
sir.
advance.
Yes, sir.
So you're still looking at throughout. What if 500 homes or 15 homes in Homeland come to you and say, Howard, I've got bad water now? Would you look forward to helping them if it's qualified?
Yeah, we're going to be accountable for what we do. So if we find out that somehow there's been something unintended or something we did, we're going to be accountable for that. And that's part of the ongoing regulatory process that we'll have to abide by.
I've briefly spoken with Mr. Burley and the city manager about the possibility of adding a separate document to the agreement of a document of commitment on certain things. And I don't have the list with me now that I've come up with, but I think Mr. Bell agreed with me that that would be good, but it didn't need to be in the agreement itself. But it's a separate document to go in the package of commitment from Stonebridge or yourselves of items like sound and noise and stuff, controls. Could that be something we could have attorneys look at?
Separate from the development agreement,
Yes.
those are things we could certainly talk about.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Watts. Is there any, thank you. Is there anyone else on the commission that have any questions? I know we have all been engaged, but any additional questions regarding the development agreement?
I have none.
Okay. All right. Granted that there are none, City Manager, do you?
If I could, if I may, there were a couple comments that I wanted to make before you sit down, Mr. Person. There were two valid concerns raised in some of the comments, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to address them before I make my other comments. One was the misperception that you said you were about business and that you were then saying that you're committed to being here and opening up a presence.
Yeah, so we are a business. I was asked that question and I answered it. We also want to involve ourselves in the community. As I've said several times, our way of doing that is getting through these various stages. So now as this project moves forward, we're going to be coming down here, creating our own presence. We'll have an office in town. We'll make ourselves available and we'll continue to interact and become part of the fabric of the community. So thank you for the opportunity to clarify that.
So you can't be a business and committed at the same time.
And that's how we do our business.
Okay. The second one was a comment about not wanting a data center in your backyard.
Yeah. We think one of the issues that has been an issue for data centers is and you go to Loudoun County, the biggest data center in the world, they put two plans in place 20 years ago that have collided. Large residential growth and large data center growth. And they did not manage the growth well. So I think one of the things you all have talked about as a city is wanting to plan, to have your own planning staff, to think strategically about what this is. There are compatible neighbors to a data center. One of the reasons we picked this site was compatible neighbors and buffers. That's an unusual, that's hard to find with all, because one of the compatible neighbors is Duke. One of the things by having Duke as your neighbor is you have the infrastructure is in place, which really helps these things operate. So we think what's really important is good planning, compatible neighbors, and I think there's an opportunity here for the city to look forward and think through that and use this opportunity to plan its own growth and its own trajectories, whatever it chooses to be.
And I just remembered there was a third item, so I apologize. I know I said two. The third item was, you mentioned about Duke. We clarified that FMPA is the source of our power and that you would not be seeking to get power from FMPA, but rather from Duke. And so there is valid concern that Duke, getting your power from Duke may cause the residents to have to pay additional funds. Can you talk about how the legislation affects that?
And
even though it's not
no.
us.
My comment, I should have been clear. My comment was in isolation, the residents of Fort Meade are served by FMPA. What's clear is the state Public Utility Commission, especially in particular through what they did to FPL, has come up with a very strict set of guidelines for what they call their large load customer agreements. And that is designed to protect residential ratepayers from paying for the large load customers. Duke is in the process. They have filed their version of that. They call it a tariff agreement. And from everything we hear, they're going to be held to at least the standard of FPL. And that agreement is what will be burdened by the site and our development, is by that tariff agreement that is approved by the PUC. So in terms of being a good neighbor, it's the PUC that's going to establishes all of those things. I was just speaking to the independence of your source of your power and where its generation comes from is from FMPA and not from Duke. But like I said, the FPL case was settled, I believe, in October or November. Duke's case is pending now. My understanding, if they hadn't filed, Duke was told very clearly to go back and readjust what they had submitted, and they're in the process of doing that. I think that case is expected to be resolved over the summer, and that will be the rules of engagement for any large load customer.
So, to give a synopsis of that.
My very long-winded answer?
Yes, effectively, the Duke customers are protected.
The Duke customers are protected through the PUC. The residents of Fort Meade are protected through their FMPA responsibility, relationship.
Excellent.
Yeah, Commissioner Watts?
On top of that, now, see, Duke customers, now, you're using part of our, with the new Duke load on the data center, is there gonna be any reason that our utility grid needs to be updated?
No, so
Could which be passed back to Duke customers, which we are kind of one of, really?
Yeah, well, the network and transmission.
Right.
Duke brings it to you all, and then you distribute within your city. One of the reasons, again, for us locating here, our service comes off the high voltage lines.
Right.
And so we are at this node where we've studied the last 10 years. The high voltage lines have never gone down because of the way they're built and what the state has actually made the utilities go to reinforce.
Yeah.
So the transmission into your town will not be affected by the data center. That is, where they step the lines down, and so those are separate ways. Off the way the grid feeds everything becomes all separate.
The grid will not be affected.
No, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Watts. Are there other things to address?
One last thing I'd like to say.
Okay.
There have been some concerns raised about whether I or my administration is pro-data center or anti-data center. And I just wanted to clarify that for those who may or may not know it, that the responsibility of my office is to address the agreement that governs the data center's access to the water rights to the water. And our focus has been on negotiating the best agreement that governs their access to those resources so that the city is protected as much as possible within that agreement. And I commend the city attorneys in supporting that and their efforts to make sure that the best doggone agreement that could be negotiated and put together was put before the commission. Not to say whether we are for the data center or against the data center. That is a decision that doesn't frankly come to us. Our responsibility is to look at the agreement and to work with whoever brings an agreement before us and make sure that that agreement is the best agreement and that it protects the interests of the city as much as possible. So that what you have in front of you, you have the best possible thing to decide whether you want to move forward.
Thank you, City Manager. Thank you. And again, thank you to your staff and thank you to our attorneys. Any more questions?
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner Watts.
Mr. Bell, Bob Lockman said about the vote at 25, and I was one of the commissioners on the board at the time. I don't remember a full vote or approval of the data center. We did not have a development agreement at the time. This is the first one to come through. So I would like to check our records as best we can, see if we can find that
Sure.
that document.
So Commissioner Watson, and thank you, City Manager, if you could please respond, and we've had this conversation. Thank you.
Sure. And so I would ultimately defer to our city attorney.
Yes.
However, I would say that with the decision regarding the zoning, that there is an entitlement and a right that is vested with the zoning of the property. So the question that was presented to us is not about whether the building could be built, but whether or not they could, that we would be supplying them water if they wanted to truck water in and serve their interests, that facility, that was their right to do that. But if they wanted to get water from us, this agreement was a necessity in order to do that. Now, I will defer to the city attorney about previous action that was taken and what that meant.
Thank you.
Within those confines.
Yeah, so, as we kind of mentioned at the beginning of this hearing, there were two previous ordinances related to this subject property. So there was ordinance number 2025-08, which amended the future land use map to designate the subject property as industrial. So that was the first step in that approval. And then there was ordinance number 2025-09, which rezoned the property to the industrial PUD, the IPUD, which includes the data center as an as-of right use. So the city manager is correct in that there's already land use and entitlements in place, and this development agreement addresses the infrastructure as far as the reservation of water capacity.
There's agreement. I do remember the commission did approve those recommendations from planning and zoning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Any other questions or comments? I want to make sure. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No. Don't be sorry, Commissioner
I
Ross.
just, as some of you have said when you got up to speak earlier, this might be a little rambling with my notes here. To anyone that says that accuses all of us of not doing due diligence, I cannot speak for anyone else. I can only speak for myself when I say that if you have written me an email, I have tried my hardest to make sure, until I started getting 5,000 a day. Then we kind of calmed down a little bit. But I tried my best to answer everyone. If I did not know an answer, I made sure with every meeting that we had with Mr. Furstenberg, I believe every meeting I took a sheet to him that had every question that had been presented to me by text, phone, email. I have contacted cities that have data centers. I have called their chambers of commerce. I have called their city halls. I have randomly called businesses in those towns. So when I sit up here, I do not take this lightly that you have given myself personally the opportunity to have a voice for you, but also know that there are people in this town that are for it, whether for whatever reason that may be. They do not feel comfortable as you obviously do speaking against it, that they have the feeling to speak for it. I've also been told that I moved here, I retired here, and we welcome you, we love you being here. But as a city, we also have to think about I grew up here, I was born and raised here, my children do not live here. There are no jobs for them here. If there is a possibility in any way that we could bring something that we can control the parameters on, that's what this agreement does. It gives us a say in what happens. The permitting that comes next allows us a say in what happens. If bringing something that, while that data center may not have 500 jobs, that doesn't mean that something that can be built, it opens up the entire west part of the town as far as infrastructure from the best of my understanding. And I just want to explain to people that I'm not sitting here and I'm not listening. I'm listening. And I'm trying to listen to everyone, as I'm sure everyone else up here is doing. So when we're accused of not doing due diligence and getting the money, I can assure you that my personal funds that I've supposedly gotten, I would not have remortgaged my home for a new roof if I was getting money for this. So I just want to clear some things up, as Commissioner Taylor did earlier, because there are so many rumors and things going around town. I just felt that a few of them needed to be noted. So thank you.
Well, I would like to relate to that. I agree. I've spent hours and hours a day, every day for the last 2 months. I've even gone to bed studying it and researching until my wife finally told me to turn it off. But we do spend time researching, calling when I called Stonebridge a number of times when I had questions of their commitment. Yeah. And to answer my concerns. So I spent a long time, and I resent being accused of not doing my research. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Watts. If there is nothing further, what I just ask is that you all will continue to show courtesy and kindness whatever way a vote goes. My ask for you is that you will continue to show courtesy and kindness to your brother and to your sister. And with that said, I'm sorry. Oh, Vice Mayor McCutcheon, you had a thought. Okay, all right, come on, and round us up.
All right. Thank you all for coming out tonight. The time is far spent, and we don't want to delay this any longer than necessary. I appreciate you all coming out, voicing your opinion. You're not shy about that. I appreciate the support. I even appreciate the little hands going up. I really enjoyed that. But I want to piggyback off of what Commissioner Lott has already stated, that we don't take this for granted. We are listening. We are observing. We are watching. I am listening. I am watching. Unfortunately, there are about 5,500 residents here in our town that we are serving, that we are also listening to. They don't have the courage to come in the room and to state what their desires are, like some of you do. But that does not mean that they're not reaching out and letting their concerns be heard as well. And so there is more than just you who are in the room who we have to consider. There are equally as many people who are opposing the data center that are for it. So we have the responsibility and the obligation to do what we feel is best for the entire city. And sometimes it may not be popular, may not be favorable, but we have an obligation to take in the information, to do our homework, to listen, to consider what is the best direction for the city moving forward. And so I appreciate you all for coming out tonight. There are a lot of things that Stonebridge has committed to in this entire process. They have been patient with us. They have been patient with you. And unfortunately, I believe sometimes our minds are made up. No matter what information is presented, no matter if you put out a claim and they come back with a counterclaim, there's nothing I can do or they can do to convince you otherwise. Your mind is made up, right? And so what we have to do is take the information that we have gathered, the hours that we have spent with Stonebridge, the hours we have spent with our lawyers, our representation, the hours we have spent with our city manager, and come to a conclusion individually as a collective body. And so I want to say thank you to Stonebridge for taking this leap of faith. And as we all claim that we are believers, we know that faith is believing in things that you don't even know exist yet. Hebrews. Right? You don't have all the answers when you're taking leaps of faith. You take a step, and sometimes you gather information along the way. Unfortunately, there are some questions that will go unanswered, that I don't even have, that you don't even have. But does that mean I don't take a leap because I'm gripped by fear? Maybe sometimes I don't. Maybe sometimes I do. If you're a business owner, I guarantee you, you may have thought you checked all the boxes. But once you got up and running, something came up that you had to mitigate. This is no different. There are going to be some things that we do, again, that may be unpopular, some steps that we take, that we get out there, we might get halfway, and we might encounter something that we didn't expect. Hopefully, if that does occur, we have enough information, we have enough technology, we have enough resources to mitigate anything that could go wrong. That's the faith that I have. I don't have guarantees.
I'm sorry, let's remain respectful.
But that is the faith that I have. That sometimes when you take a leap, you don't know where you're going to land. You take the information that you have and you move forward with what you do have. And so tonight, I just want to say again, thank you all for coming out. And Mr. Mayor, I yield to you.
Thank you. Now, what I'd like to ask is, what is the will of the commission concerning this item, the development agreement?
All right, Madam Mayor, Lord have mercy.
It's okay. It's a long night.
Yeah.
Long night.
Mr. Mayor, I move and recommend staff to accept the development agreement with Stonebridge.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
will you be doing this by roll call or by voice vote?
We can do it by roll call. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All right. Commissioner Watts? Yes, sir.
Aye.
Commissioner Lott?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McCutcheon?
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes, Mayor. Vote passes by unanimous vote. Moving forward to N, report of the city manager. And we ask, as you exit, if you are exiting and not staying with us, is that you all will do so again respectfully. Thank you for being here this evening. Okay. Okay. City manager.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I know everybody is tired and ready to move on to the next. So
1 second, City Manager. Officers, if you all can assist us, making sure that all exit. And as you all are exiting, again, we ask that we'll stay in decorum, please. Yeah, continue.
Sure. So I just want to bring attention to, I mean, you have the items in there, but I want to bring attention to item number 8 in the report, the upcoming meetings.
Yes, sir.
Specifically, April 16th, the CRA, CFRPC CRA Plan Update Tour. I believe we're asking anybody who wants to participate in that tour to be there at 9:15?
1 second. If you are remaining in here with us and you have a conversation that needs to take place, we ask that you would take it outside because we still need to be able to conduct our meeting. So again, if there's any further conversations needed, we ask that you would do it in the foyer in the outside area. City Manager, Commissioner Watts could not hear you, so if you could repeat that.
Sure. So for the upcoming meetings, I wanted to draw your attention to the April 16th meeting, not just because it's my birthday, but because it is the tour date, and we're asking everyone to be there at 9:15 in order to be able to take pictures, and you'll be able to participate in a tour of the city that you already know, but to highlight for the purposes of our Central Florida Regional Planning Council, who is doing our CRA update, the focus of what that update wants to try to address. And so, in the interest of transparency, since that seems to be the buzzword, we wanted to give the larger community an opportunity to participate in that whole process, and not just the code enforcement officer and staff. So make sure that you're aware of that. I also want to, it's not listed in here, but I want to mention that the notice to proceed for the library community center project was issued as of April 1st with a October 15th deadline, if I'm not mistaken. So that is underway, and we expect April 20th, I believe it was, that you'll see site work being done. I know there's already a sign there, but they will initiate the site work and have equipment there to accomplish that. So that will be the first visible vestiges of that work. They're already in the permitting phase as a result of the notice to proceed. So thank you for the commission and giving us the authorization to move forward with that. The other thing that I wanted to point out is the books that you have in front of you. We've put a lot of work and effort into making sure that it is put together in a way that is tabbed, that is much more clear for your usage, and I wanted to commend the staff for the work that they put into that. Our deputy clerk and Miss Olivia Martin that worked on putting the book together. I really want to make sure that we say something because they put a lot of effort into getting us from what we used to do to where we are now.
Thank you.
I think there was one other item that I missed. What was that?
The special
Oh,
meeting?
that's right. So we wanted to mention that the previous commission had voted to surplus the trailer park that the city owned, and that was on a loan agreement, and I'm happy to say that we are no longer holding that loan because they paid it in full.
Oh,
okay.
Awesome. Amazing.
Yes. So we are looking at how we can put those funds into a instrument that will serve the city best going forward. Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Watts.
Will that be on our next meeting discussion, or we're going to put it off a while for a workshop or something?
For which item?
The trailer park money paid off, we're gonna look, see, get together and talk about what to do with it,
Well,
what instrument to use.
that option is always available to the commission until the commission tells us to do otherwise. We're going to put it in a position that it can bring as much revenue as possible until
Great,
such time.
great, I was wondering if we could bring it up the next meeting to talk about it or what, that's my question.
Sure. Okay.
Um,
Commissioner Taylor?
Mr. Bell, if you can hear me, what about that property that you were looking at for the water and sewer project?
So that, the property that's adjacent to the facility.
That's the RV storage.
Right. Right. So as it stands now, we had a conversation with the owner of the park about allowing us to keep that portion of the park as the future development of the water, and our request was denied at this point.
Okay.
So we're looking at what other options might be available to us.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
And I didn't mention this, but the closing on the property that we're purchasing adjacent to City Hall.
Excuse me, Mr. Bell.
I'm sorry.
I was just asking if the deputy could walk her out, escort her, make sure she gets to her car safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
So that closing will be tomorrow.
Okay.
Right.
Good. Thank you. Anything else, City Manager? Nothing?
No, sir,
Okay,
that's
all
it.
right. City Attorneys?
Just want to say on behalf of the entire firm, we are honored to be serving as your interim attorneys. Certainly has been a pleasure serving all of you, serving your community, and want to say again, you've got a great manager and a great staff, and thank you to your manager and your staff because they have been very helpful in this transition. I know we come from the administrative side as well, and it's not easy transitioning with council, and they have been certainly been troopers about it.
Okay.
So just want to say thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Don't talk so much.
Yes. Would you have anything you'd like to share? No. Okay. All right. Great. With report of the mayor and commissioners, any reports?
No, not for me.
Okay. Future agenda items, if any? None. Okay.
Well,
Oh.
I would like to speak about one thing, and we have spoken about it, perhaps with and doesn't have to be tomorrow, but with the new subdivision and the rezoning of that commercial property. I'm thinking maybe we need to look at a light at 9th and 98, slowing people as they come into town, but in addition, addressing that pullout, because it's very busy. Yes, sir.
Can I comment to that,
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Watson. And lean forward so we can hear you.
You would have to go through DOT.
Through
do a
DOT.
request for study, and,
Right. But if we can talk about getting that rolling to the DOT, that would be great.
City Manager, if we can have that for discussion.
And if I could have it by next Tuesday, all taken care of that.
Yesterday. What are you
Yeah,
talking
right.
about next
If
Tuesday?
we have magic.
Trying to be nice.
Okay. Now, do we have, and we're at R, anything for the good of the order? Feel-good events, feel-good announcements? Yes, sir.
There was two things that I neglected to mention just quickly. If you can stay a little bit after to take a picture, individual pictures for your photo IDs, that would be great. And the last thing is the meeting on the 21st of April. I want to make sure that we have a quorum for that meeting to be able to take care of the
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, yes. What we weren't able to take care of in this meeting.
Okay. And if there's nothing else, we are at adjournment. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Oh, I don't have to ask for it. All those in favor signify by stating aye. You all have a beautiful evening and be safe getting home.